Good morning. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx Webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. My name is Bruce Mullock, and the Committee of Adjustment panelists this morning are Larry Clay, Zahir Bayat, and Peter Reed. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting via computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone. They have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When an item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. And we ask that you also mute your devices until you are called upon to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist status when their item is being heard. As panelist, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled, and you'll be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use share screen or other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role should you fail to respect this instruction. I will now proceed with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that apply to property, permission to extend or to alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property in order to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on a particular application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email only. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed the rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and specified persons in public bodies are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will call each item in the order that it is listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or the applicant may proceed with their presentation if requested by the committee. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair that they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I will comment to you as you are approaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and may be asked to make a presentation. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised. To ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals either in support of or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after each has finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or the agent has an opportunity to rebut, but only to those matters that were raised by the speakers. And that will mark the end of discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have the minutes of the last hearing been confirmed by members?
Through you, Mr. Chair, good morning. The minutes from the May 10th and May 17th hearing are ready to be confirmed for adoption.
Can we confirm both of those in one motion?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So looking to the members for a motion to confirm the minutes of those two hearings. Mr. Byatt, is there a second? It is seconded, Mr. Reed. All in favor, please show of hands. So those minutes are so confirmed. Are there any declarations of interest by either staff or panel members? Hearing none.
Through you, Mr. Chair, see none.
I see none either. Yes, thank you. And Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral on the first part of the agenda?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is one application requesting deferral this morning. That is item number 15 for 97 Anderdale Road.
Thank you for that. Very good, thank you. Okay. And Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any files to be closed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, there are no files to be closed.
Thank you very much. Very good. In that case, we shall proceed to item number 1 on today's agenda. (230) Coxwell Avenue. And on this item, there is an extensive list of materials before the panel. Before the committee are a copy of those materials submitted by the applicant. There's a cover letter from the architect, June 6th. There's a City Council agenda, Open Door Program 2020. There is an arborist report. Presentation materials from the agent, May 17. There are staff reports from Community Planning and also from Urban Forestry. There is a letter recommending approval from Councillor Paula Fletcher, Ward 14. There is a letter recommending approval from Abigail Bond of the Housing Secretariat. There is correspondence both in support of and opposed to the application. In support, from Anishinaabe Homes Incorporated, Thunder Woman Healing Lodge Society, Toronto Aboriginal Support Services, Native Canadian Centre of Toronto, Aboriginal Employment and Training, support correspondence also from Toronto and Region Métis Council, from the ENAGB Indigenous Youth Agency, from New Frontiers, from the Ondayawan Shelter, from the Native Women's Resource Center, from the Native Child and Family Services, from Riverdale Cooperative Houses, from Well Living House, and from the Urban Indigenous Education Center. Also, there are form letters in support signed by owners or occupants of 251 Rhodes and 220, 205, and 211 Coxwell. There's a piece of correspondence in concern from 263 Rhodes. In opposition, there is written correspondence from the following: 2 letters from 257 Rhodes, from 259 Rhodes, from 234 Coxwell, 216 Coxwell, 267 Rhodes, 222 Coxwell, 265 Rhodes, 261 Rhodes, again from 261 Rhodes, from 234 Coxwell. And there is a 23 signature petition in opposition, received on May the 24th. No address is provided. And there are presentation materials in opposition from 234 Coxwell. So we'll now have the applicant or agent join us by stating your name.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me all right?
Hearing you fine. Thank you. Carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. David Bronskill, Bronskill, first initial D for David, from Goodman's LLP. Address, Mr. Chair, is 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400 in Toronto, Ontario. And absolutely delighted to be here as agent for Name Res for this proposal.
Go ahead. You have 5 minutes to present your application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if I could ask staff, I will get to, they're ahead of me, Mr. Chair, as always, with that presentation up. I did, Mr. Chair, just want to note at the outset, just in case the committee is not familiar with Name Res, but since about 1985, they have actually been providing shelter and permanent housing to Indigenous men in Toronto. It's a unique cultural approach based on respect and dignity, and obviously their experience in cultural practices. It has included emergency shelter and transitional housing facilities, but also permanent housing facilities, such as what is being proposed here. I've been pleased to be involved in 2 of the 4. They've also got projects at 192 and 194 Dunn Avenue. I've been involved at 63 Homewood Avenue in Cabbagetown, which was construction started in 2018. They've also most recently, another one I've been involved in, 218 Carlton Street, east of Parliament, in Cabbagetown, where they took over a home from a developer slated for affordable housing, and construction is underway. They are a proven deliverer of much needed affordable housing, and they do it not just through construction, but in terms of the support services that they also provide. They are a remarkable organization, Mr. Chair, which is one of the reasons I am so thrilled to be here today. In terms of the variances, Mr. Chair, the package that's in front of you, we've designed to attempt to show to the committee how the different variances actually manifest themselves on the site. If I could ask the staff to go to the second page, just quickly as background, as you know, it's on Coxwell. Coxwell is a major street in the OP, planned right-of-way width of 20 meters. So the property is designated neighborhoods, Mr. Chair, but it's not a typical neighborhoods property, as the committee may often be dealing with variance requests. As you can see, there are 4+ story residential dwellings existing on Coxwell today. So part of the existing physical character along Coxwell includes 3.5, 4-story residential buildings. And we wanted the committee to have pictures of those to understand that existing context on Coxwell, including immediately in proximity to the site. Now, in terms of some of the variances, we've included a landscape plan just so that the committee can see how the building would sit on the site, pathways, access points, landscape strips, etc. We've also, if staff at page 4 in the plan, just to note for the committee, there are 2 accessible units at grade being provided as part of this, which we believe are very important. I just wanted to pause on this page for the committee. If you note the red line on the right, I'm going to be speaking about this variance in a moment. That's the main entrance. That's Coxwell on the right. You can see a vestibule entrance. You can see the amenity room. That's a 0-meter setback. That's a variance, and I will be speaking to that in a moment. It's a variance when there is a residential unit proposed. You're supposed to have 4.5. We don't. But that's because we don't actually have any residential units at grade in that location. It's the vestibule, it's amenity space. So the residential setback intended by that variance we submit is not actually required when we don't have a residential unit actually in that location. That is, the ground floor accessible residential units are in the back, accessible by the pathway that's on the landscape plan. That was just the page before. Mr. Chair, the next page also has an explanation of 2 of the variances. One of them, there's a variance for the first floor height. You're supposed to have 4.5 meters. That's, as the committee well knows, a typical floor to ceiling height for a commercial unit. This is a residential building. We have a 3.1 meter first floor height there shown in green. Again, we think it's a fairly technical variance when looking at a residential building such as this. There is a height variance. We think it's in keeping with what's existing on the street. And we're just simply noting here for the committee that although there's a maximum permitted height of 12 and we are exceeding that going up to 13.26, you can see that there's a parapet height projection permitted for 2 meters. So in fact, the street wall could be up to 14 meters. We are below that, and we are providing a green roof. So in terms of that overall height...
I must advise you that you are approaching your time limit. I'm going to give you an extra minute to
Thank you,
explain
Mr.
your
Chair.
application. Go ahead.
I will use it efficiently. Thank you. And I can also ask questions, answer any questions the committee may have about this. The next page, page 6, shows, again, another one of the technical variances. You're supposed to have a 5.5 meter setback on a wall where there's windows. Page 6 in the dark blue shows the area that is set back 5.5 meters that has windows. The light blue is set back 3 meters. But on the left-hand side, there's only a door, so no windows on ground floor. And on the right-hand side, a door and a window at the ground floor. So again, we think the intent of this provision is being met. Finally, Mr. Chair, page 7, we're showing an angular plane diagram for the committee. We have a penetration there in the dark gray. I wanted to draw your attention, though, to the middle red line that we drew on this. That's not a zoning standard. That's the existing mid-rise angular plane that we've drawn. So when you're doing a mid-rise building on major streets, that red line is what you're supposed to meet. We know that that angular plane is in fact being taken away through recent city staff initiatives, but you can see the small extent of penetration into a very, very standard urban design guideline for angular planes.
Thank
so
you.
again,
Your
we think
time
it's
is
a
up.
fairly technical variance. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Page 8, if the committee needs to see it, is just the rendering, and that's all I'll say,
Your time
Mr.
is
Chair.
up.
Thank you at this time.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, I gave that speaker an extra minute because we have 10 speakers registered to speak in opposition. So I just wanted to get as good a picture of the application as I could. Are there any questions for the applicant at this stage, or for the agent at this stage, panel, or shall we go ahead and hear from those in opposition? Let's go ahead to the first opposition speaker. So we'll ask the opposition speakers, because there are a number of you, to please be careful to not repeat what those before you have said. There's no need for that. But we are interested in how the application concerns you and the impacts that you see it having upon the neighborhood and upon those like yourselves who live nearby. First speaker, moderator.
Hi, Shu. You've been unmuted, and you can turn on your video if you want.
Could you, before you start counting, hello everyone, can you guys all hear me?
I beg your pardon, your voice is a bit faint.
Can you all hear me?
You're faint. No, we're having trouble.
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
We can hear her, Chair. Hear him, Chair.
Now we hear you here also. Good, okay.
Okay, okay, so I'm clear. You guys can hear me.
You're clear,
Okay.
and now you're loud. Yes.
Okay, Stanley, could you share my material on the screen? I just need the first page before you start counting. Yes, that's the one. Okay, can I start?
Please go ahead.
Hello, thank you for the panel for having me here. My name is Shu. I'm the property owner of 234 Coxwell Avenue, which is directly adjacent to the proposed development on the north side. I hope the panel here can give my concerns and comments a bit more weight, because I argue my property is by far the most negatively affected by this proposal. So before I speak about my concerns, I would like to point out this particular section here. Actually, it's an elevation from the north side looking south. So as you see, the blue area is my building, and it represents the approximate intent of what's allowed on this property. And in the back is their proposal, the monstrous proposal. So the red area represents approximately what the result of the variances that they're asking for. As you see here, there's nothing minor about this. When you look at them individually, all 10 of them, they may look small, but together they have a compounded effect, which is a result of these variances. So as a result, I'm going to lose up to 100% of the daylight and sunlight coming to the facade of my building, and the skylight to my unit. My backyard will also be shaded heavily and for a longer period of time. Number two, fire hazard. Since I have 5 vents on the southern wall, I have 3 dry vents and 2 kitchen vents. They have no respect for any setback between my building and the front. Therefore, as a result, those vents will stop working, and I won't be able to maintain them. And all the residents on my building will be at risk of carbon monoxide poisoning, as well as risk of fire for both of our buildings. Number 3 is structural integrity and accountability in the long term. So as the geotechnical report states, it will be extremely difficult to build this close to my building, and the soil condition won't be able to support their 4-story building with conventional construction. So this is no news to me, because if you live in a neighborhood and you know the neighborhood, this intersection has been troubled by foundation and structural issues due to the soil condition. For example, up the street, the No Frills and Good Life Center, Good Life Fitness, both have structural issues in the past and recently. And No Frills was a bit extreme. They had to be completely demolished and reconstructed because the building was basically collapsing on itself after some time. So this tends to happen to denser buildings, and that's all we know. Imagine what we don't know. So I think in this intersection, any building that is asking for variance, adding weight and density to their building should be automatically be refused, especially when it's this close to my building. If something happens, I'm going to be dragged with it in the short and long run. So the last item would be my airflow and views will also be impacted. Now I want to speak about my biggest disappointment about this proposal is actually the fact that there has been no public design consultation whatsoever, and the timeline. I was first notified as the immediate neighbor on May 7th, and that was less than a month ago. And then the applicant met with me on the 15th, which gave me a little over 1 week to react to this project, because the deadline to submit my letter was on the 24th. And during the 15th, they just showed me the architecture drawings and told me what they want to do, and that was it. And on that day, I did express and communicated very clearly my concerns. And a few days later, they called me and told me they don't care about my concerns. And not only do they not care, they are asking me to completely reroute my internal ducts and vents to suit their variances in design, which I think is absolutely unacceptable. This is just disgusting. So I hope the panel here can see that their marketing material and what their friends say about them, they try to promote themselves as neighborly, they are responsible, and they are collaborative. But when you look at their actions, they have been completely the opposite. Like every action they've done so far has been aggressive, irresponsible, and dishonest. So I hope the panel here can
I
judge
must
this.
advise you to
Yes,
give us your
yes.
final thoughts, please.
Yes, so I hope the panel here can judge this proposal by what they do, not by what they say or what their friends say about them, and because I think words and
Excuse me, I don't want this to degenerate into a
Correct,
personality issue. We're dealing here with the variances in the application.
Correct. So I'm brief here, but I have stated in detail on my letter, and this is why I think these variances should be refused. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see if there are any questions for you. Panel members? No, I'm not hearing any. Okay, thank you. We'll move along now to the next speaker who's registered.
Hi, Abbas, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
We hear you clearly. You have 5 minutes to present your concerns. Tell us about the impact that you're concerned about.
Thank you. My name is Abbas Asuji, and I'm a resident of 234 Coxwell, so the property directly adjacent to the variances being requested today. Affordable housing is undeniably an issue in our city, and I fully acknowledge that the importance of addressing it. However, I firmly believe that any development, including this one today that we're talking about, must be thoroughly thought out and involve meaningful consultation with the immediate neighbors. Minor variances, especially when bundled in the quantity that's being requested today, can completely change the scale of the development and cause permanent consequences for those living in close proximity. Today, I want to bring your attention to the glaring lack of consultation and the hasty variance request process for this development. I was surprised that only on May 7th were we made aware of this development, and that came through a letter from the city. As someone living right next to this property, this shows there's a very clear lack of early engagement. Usually, with such developments, the developers give significant notice to avoid these types of surprises. It is normal for developers to consult with neighbors well in advance, so they can understand the potential impacts and evaluate the impacts on the neighborhoods. But this clearly wasn't done in this case. In our meeting with the developer's representatives on May 17th, it became really clear that they were unwilling to entertain any adjustments to their design. We shared our concerns with them, with the developer. However, no action was taken in the subsequent weeks. It became apparent that the building design was already set in stone, and their presence was only as a marketing pitch to get our support for these variances. It is also important to note that all the letters of support are from individuals or organizations who do not reside in the immediate vicinity of this development. In contrast, the letters from those in the immediate vicinity all expressed opposition. Unfortunately, this shows the lack of genuine consultation that occurred. Our neighborhood has been left with a mere 2 weeks to voice our concerns and only 3 weeks to prepare for this very meeting. The reasons provided for this rush timeline were that the city moved up the dates. but I expressed my skepticism regarding this claim. To me, it appears to be a coordinated plan to minimize the available time for property owners and residents to respond. Naturally, this raises doubts about what might be concealed or overlooked in the development proposal as the impact of these variances.
Can you tell us about the impact of the variances?
I'm getting there. As someone who lives directly next to the proposed development, we need additional time to review the data. These variances are creating a building next, these variances are creating a building next to where I live that is significantly denser than anything in the neighborhood. I'm not comfortable with the size and density which is being enabled by these variances and the impact that it would have on my current residents. This demands a careful assessment, which takes more time than what's being given. This additional time can also be used by the developer to facilitate genuine consultations, and hopefully they can also take some input from us and actually act on it. In conclusion, I cannot emphasize enough the profound lack of consultation that has occurred for this development. The timeline provided to us is woefully inadequate for conducting a proper impact and engaging in any meaningful consultations, which is what we've seen in this case where the developer has not taken into account any of the concerns that have been shared. My request to the committee today is that they seriously consider rejecting these variances, or at the very least, put them on hold to allow for additional time to thoroughly evaluate the potential impacts and foster genuine consultations with the developer. I'd like to end by just thanking the committee for the opportunity. I have faith that the committee will consider the implications of the development and the imperative nature of community consultation in making well-informed decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel members, questions here? We'll go on then, there are no questions, we'll go on to the next registered speaker standing by.
Hi, I actually didn't mean to speak today. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
I beg your
You can go
pardon?
on to you can go on to the next person.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Could just so I know from my list here, would you mind giving me your name, please?
Yeah, Yua Peng,
Okay.
YIHUAPENG.
I have it here on my list, and you don't wish to speak, so thank you very much. Okay. Let's go to the next person then, moderator.
Hello. Yeah, it's Eddie Chu. Can you hear me?
Hi, Eddie. We can hear you. You can begin your.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a voice of the Zumba class here. I'm representing my parents on 267 Rhodes Avenue, so it's adjacent to the building. I'll be brief because a lot of points have been pointed already in regards to shading. They are low-income pensioners living behind the building, and they have a very nice vegetable garden which they rely on. And I think their concern is that with the type variance will affect negatively on their health and well-being, of particularly their garden. That's, I guess, one of the main points, and noise pollution as well. Hello? Yep. Hello? Yeah, that's the main points I have to just echo for my parents.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is that all you wish? That's all you wish to say, Eddie? Okay. Very good. We'll move on to the next speaker.
Hi, Jane. You've been unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
We do hear you clearly. Go ahead.
Great. Okay, so I am the neighbor directly behind the building being proposed. We're at 265 Rhodes Avenue. And my main concern, although first of all, I'd like to say that I 100% believe that this is an important project, and I would like to see them find a way to make it successful. So it's nothing against the project that's being proposed, just some of the variances that affect our home directly. The height of the building, the additional height that's being proposed will essentially take away most of the direct light that we receive in our home. It's the morning light, and we get the sun coming right through that corridor where the building is being proposed. Once it hits above that 4-story proposed height, we start to lose the direct light into our home, as well as into our back garden. I'm also concerned about how close the building will be in terms of the height of the building and the variance for the 45-degree angular plane that's proposed. That will also affect our light, the proximity of the building looking into our backyard. We have 2 young daughters, and we're concerned about just those windows overlooking our back garden and into our home, and the loss of light.
Thank you very much. Panel members, questions for this speaker?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We'll go on now, moderator, to the next speaker, please.
Hello, Saruja, you've been unmuted.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just excuse my voice. I have a cold. So can you hear me okay?
We hear you quite clearly. Go ahead.
I didn't really project. So dear committee members, thank you for giving me this time to speak about this proposed construction. While my time is brief, I do want to begin by acknowledging that I do live and work in Toronto. And as shared at the beginning of this meeting, this land is the traditional territory of many nations. It's also part of the Dish with One Spoon, a covenant that was made among First Nations and joined by newcomers to promise to be caretakers of the land, water, and all beings. Part of this caring is part of my everyday, and it's very much part of this letter of concern and this presentation. I'm also well aware of the urgency of creating affordable housing. This is even at a higher importance for Indigenous people because of the colonial histories that have left many people disenfranchised from their land, communities, and families, which has had catastrophic effects. The dish is to be shared and is also part of my responsibility that is done collaboratively, and with care for the environment and each other. My letter of concern in this presentation addresses this necessity to ensure that we take care with these forms of construction. So my residence is located directly behind the proposed construction of the new 4-story apartment building with 20 affordable units. On May 7th, I received informal and in-person information about the requested variances, and I received a document on May 19th. This timeline offered me only a short amount of time to respond. I also did not receive the full floor plans of the building design. The objective of my presentation is to directly address the outlined variances. I will identify my questions and concerns specifically about the size of the new building structure, the density of the units of the proposed space, and the building design impact on the infrastructure of the neighborhood, which includes my residents. I believe strongly in affordable housing, and it remains a critically urgent need. I welcome its integration into the Coxwell and Gerrard neighborhood. But while reviewing the adjustment notice, I saw serious issues appearing in the requested variances. I will address these briefly. So parking is the first one. Mr. Bruce Davis, who was a consultant for the project, stated that the tenants will not have cars. And I have the following question, like where will the buildings and the institution's employees park? Where will service workers and emergency vehicles park? Where will friends and relatives of the residents park? The neighborhood, especially the adjacent Rhodes Avenue street, has limited street parking to support a 20-unit dwelling and does not have vehicle access. Because the building does not have vehicle access. Parking is not permitted on Coxwell. There's also an increase in traffic flow with a very family-oriented neighborhood. We have a lot of children, so that would increase the traffic. There's also accessibility parking. There's no accessible parking. So with a lack of accessible parking for the incoming structure, what about people with physical challenges? How will they access the building, and where will they park, and how will this impact their mobility? The next area is bicycles. This variance is significant because there's no accommodation for parking cars, and there's no accommodation for us locating bicycles either outside or inside the building. The building's design is at overcapacity of units, I am suggesting. And this not able to accommodate mobility circumvents two forms of mobility, which will impact residents and also ultimately impact the neighborhood as well. The environmental issues that are created by constructing a massive structure severely impacts the geological and water infrastructures, as noted earlier by one of the speakers. This also includes waste management. There is no room on that lot in terms of how waste is managed. Shadowing on the adjacent properties, including mine, will be dramatically increased. And also privacy, which also includes mine. I'm right behind that building, and it's very close to the lot line. And we're talking
I must ask you to give us your final thoughts, please.
Pardon me?
I must ask you now to give us your final thoughts, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So in conclusion, there's an overdue and urgent need for affordable housing. This is without question. However, the variance will reflect a building design that exceeds the property size that can accommodate, and it replaces an otherwise possible sustainable property. My suggestion is to adhere to the city bylaws, modifying the design to perhaps 14 units and removing the fourth floor. This adjustment will continue to locate affordable housing in the community while eliminating the need for variance.
Thank you. Panel members, any questions here for the speaker? Let's move ahead to the next speaker, please. Moderator.
Hi, Jason, you've been unmuted.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chairman, panel members. Can you hear me?
We hear you clearly, Jason. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you very much. And I just want to begin by saying I have no issue with the proposed use of the project, as previous speakers stated, that it's a very important, vital part of our community. But I do have issue with the variance proposed, one of which is the timeline in which we were given. As mentioned by the previous speakers, we were only given a couple weeks to respond to the proposal, and the reason we were given is that the committee adjustment has moved up their meeting date. Now, in terms of the variance, they have proposed several variances, such as the overall height increase, the lower ceiling on the first floor, the penetration of the 45 degrees angles, and the encroachment on the south setback. And together, all these variances had facilitated the addition of the fourth floor on their building, which increased the unit counts by 6 units, and that represents about 43% increase in their unit counts. Now, we want to ask the committee members for additional time to consider the variance, given that it has long-term effects in terms of daylighting, in terms of privacy and sightlines, and it obviously has a significant impact on the neighborhood's density and noise. So if we were to move ahead with the variances, it's not only not in keeping with the planning principle of the lot, but I feel like it could open up a precedent for developers using a combination of what seems to be minor variances to drastically increase the density or the unit counts. That's my presentation.
Thank you very much. Questions, panel? No. Moderator, please, the next speaker.
Hi, Adam, you've been unmuted. Hello, Adam. May now speak.
Moderator, perhaps we'll move on to the next speaker, and you could try to connect with Adam. I actually saw Adam's name appear about 10 minutes ago. He logged in, and then he seemed to log out again.
Oh, hi.
Hello?
Hi, yes, sorry. I couldn't, I couldn't
State your name,
have
please.
my mic on.
Could you state your name, please?
Adam.
Oh, good morning. Okay, Adam, you're with us.
Good. Yeah, so I had the other stuff that were concerns as well that other people mentioned it already.
Excuse me, Chair, what's Adam's address?
Could you give us your address, Adam?
Yeah, 208 Coxwell. So I live a few houses down from it, and some of the variances, as others mentioned, like parking, that could be a concern as well as like how secure will the building be? Will there? So just a concern is will it be the type of building that will have like dwellings or people hanging out after? Like, we would need to know a little bit more about the building and how will they manage the traffic coming in and out of the building, especially with there's a few schools there and a few businesses there. So that is a concern, in addition to parking and in addition to the other concerns that other people mentioned as well. So that is my issue. Do we have the services and infrastructure to support individuals like that at the Coxwell and Gerard neighborhood?
Okay. Any questions? No. Thank you very much. We'll move to next person standing by, moderator.
Hello, Heather. You've been unmuted.
Sorry, I didn't actually need to speak. I live in the house directly beside, but I just wanted to watch the meeting.
Very good. Okay. If you don't wish to, you have an opportunity to speak if you wish. If you don't want to, fine. We shall be, we'll carry on now.
Okay, I mean, I get, maybe I will speak then.
Go ahead.
Just very briefly. So I rent the house at 222 Coxwell, which is directly south of this proposal. And I've lived there with my family for 6 years. It's a wonderful neighborhood, and I support this project in theory, but I just wanted to echo what a lot of people have said, that it's kind of been sprung upon us very quickly with very little time to kind of consider the implications. Particularly, I'm a little bit worried about the how loud it is. It could be, the outdoor garden or like the patio area is like basically meters away from my child's bedroom, so I'm a little bit concerned about that. So overall, I think this project has a lot of merit and is an important project. But I do have some concerns and would appreciate more time to consider the details of it.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right then. At this point, we're going to be going back to the applicant for his opportunity to rebut, comment upon the comments that have been made. I'd just like to check, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer.
Yes, Chair.
I wanted to just check something with you. I've heard this from the speakers. A recurring theme was the short amount of advance time. Can you tell me on this application where committee of or where the city timeline guidelines followed, or was the timeline somehow compressed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, the normal typical timelines were followed, and we actually send out our notice well in advance of the statutory requirement in the Planning Act.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, then with that, we'll return to the speaker, who will have an opportunity to rebut. Speaker, I want you only to address those issues that were raised by those that presented. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to spend just a very brief moment, Mr. Chair, on that question of consultation. I did want to stress, Mr. Chair, one of the speakers indicated that all of the letters of support are from people who don't live in the neighborhood. That's not true. There are some letters of support from people in the neighborhood. I also want to commend actually my client for reaching out to, I think, almost all of the people who spoke today with individual meetings. I think the one exception was the gentleman for 267 Roads who appeared on behalf of his son. Our client did attend at his parents' house, spoke to, I think, the father, who did not speak English well, but indicated that his son would call. I think that's the speaker you heard from. The son did not call our client. But otherwise, I think by and large, every single person who spoke today has had some type of individual meeting or conversation with our client. And in terms of a solution to remove 6 units, I would simply say a 4-story building is permitted in the apartment neighborhoods. 12 meters is permitted on the site. And a solution of removing 6 affordable housing units is not a response that we need when we are in the middle of a housing crisis. In terms of just how the building will function, there were some comments about that. If I could quickly ask staff in our presentation to pull up page 3, which is just the landscape, colored landscape plan. Just so the committee is aware, you can see the 3-meter setback to the front portion of the buildings on the side to allow the pedestrian walkway. That's where there's only the door and the window at grade. Then the 5.5-meter inset, where there are windows in accordance with the zoning bylaw, and then the bump out again at 3 meters where there's just a door. Landscaping strip to the property to the south, an area at the back. You can see there's a 0-meter setback to the building to the north. I'll speak about the vents in a moment. It's a very well designed and coordinated site plan and does include landscaping as some buffers in particular to the property to the south. The next page just shows you the ground floor plan, because there was a question somehow about managing traffic to the building. I would simply note for the committee, in terms of pedestrian traffic, it's managed as any other residential building is managed. There's an entry vestibule, a main entrance, there's a lobby, there are stairs and elevators, and there are residential units in the building that people will live in. So I'm not quite sure what that speaker was suggesting in terms of managing the occupants of the building. They are residents of this building the way any other person is a resident of a building in the city of Toronto. There was a concern about bicycle parking. You'll note on this plan at the bottom left, the bicycle parking room. The variance that's before you doesn't relate to the amount of bicycle parking. It relates to how they are stacked, i.e., whether or not there's a mechanical device used with stacked bicycle parking spaces. So there is bicycle parking.
Yes, let's just zoom in on that for a second. Okay.
Yep. There it is, sir. 16 horizontal stacked bike parking spaces, 3 electrified spots in a bike room. The amount of bicycle parking there is as required under the zoning bylaw. It's that the stacking doesn't have a mechanical stacker. So it's a very technical variance, and I would hope in a building that's going to be affordable housing, that's an area where we might have some flexibility. There was a question about garbage. If staff could scroll just a little bit to the right, you'll see the waste room that would store any of the garbage the way any other apartment building would have waste stored inside. It could then be brought out to the curb through that pedestrian walkway that I showed you earlier on the landscape plan, out that door, and brought out to the street for typical public pickup. In terms of parking, the only variance before you is for one accessible space. That's the only variance. There's no other parking variance being required. And it's simply that on this site, providing an accessible parking space would be very difficult to achieve on the lot. There is parking on Coxwell, so I'm not quite sure what the statement was to the committee about you can't park at all on Coxwell. And it's designed that the accessible units are at grade, so someone who needs to get there with a car would be able to be picked up, go out that walkway out to Coxwell, and if they needed some type of assistance in picking up, they could be picked up. I'm not going to spend any more time on the consultation, Mr. Chair, but the one neighbor to the north with the vents, I don't think he was fair or accurate in the conversations. And in fact, Mr. Chair, I think he bordered on being unfair. We, in fact, our client has offered to move his vents. His vents, in fact, are built over our client's property. That's a problem. But that's a problem of his own making, and we will work with him through the construction process to deal with that. And in fact, our client has already been working with him, assisted with his roof a number of months ago through the builder, helping him move materials onto the roof. So he's known for a long time, in fact, about this development. I would just do three last things, Mr. Chair. One is in the package, there was a question about shadows. I think it's important just to draw the committee's attention to those shadow studies. We've done both an as-of-right building and then the proposal. The proposal's at the bottom in dark with the as-of-right shadow overlaid in red. I would note two things for you. By 1018 for the properties on roads, the shadows are off those properties. Thank you to staff. Sorry, it's page 9 of the PDF. If you could go to that, my apologies. It's the bottom set. If you could scroll down, it is that has the red line on them. Any of them will do. But when you look at the shadow studies, we've got in dark the shadows that we're proposing. The red line shows the as of right. What you're looking at is September there, Mr. Chair. If you see at the bottom, 918, that dark, that's the extent of the shadows in the backyards of roads. There's no loss of light to people's homes. And the shadows are off by 1018.
I'll ask you to conclude now, please.
Yes, sir. And there was a concern also then about overlook that I would just deal with quickly. There's no rear yard setback variance being proposed, and so the windows are located exactly where they should be located for a building like this, and I'm not sure why any of the eventual residents in this building would pose any type of different privacy impact than that permitted by the zoning bylaw. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope I've addressed all those comments, but obviously I'm available for questions.
Your time is up, and we'll go now to questions. Panel members, questions first, Mr. Clay.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, David. A very helpful presentation. Looking at the site plan, and it looks like there's a substantial amount of landscaping and vegetation proposed for the rear yard. I'm also looking at what looks like a reference to a garden wall and in some cases privacy screening. So could you just help us out a little bit, because that's amenity space, right? So could you help us understand what the plan is for the treatment is there any screening in and around the backyard?
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. It's in our, to help with staff. It's page 3 of our presentation, may be the most helpful landscape plan to see. Yes, that one might be the most helpful. It's what I would say. It's a very typical backyard type of proposed condition, although I think more landscaped, because it's a path that comes down the side. There is then in the side an area for seating in that 5.5 meter setback. It then becomes a path that accesses the 2 accessible units. And you can see through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Clay, those triangles indicating those 2 access points. There is then some planters and other landscaping at the back, including some new proposed trees and planting and hedges. And then there are fences and privacy screens proposed that would be in accordance with the city's fence bylaw. So we think it's an appropriate rear yard condition. That rear yard's intended more to be accessed than congregation space, but it does have heavy landscaping as well as fences in accordance with the city's fencing bylaw.
Okay, great, thank you.
Other questions, panel? Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one for Mr. Bronskill. Do you have any idea, number 238, I believe, Coxwell, is also an apartment building. Any idea how many units there are in that building?
I don't have that information. I apologize, sir.
No.
It's 4 stories, but I don't know how many units are in it.
You're not expected to, but I just thought, because there are a lot of concerns about the number of units in the proposed structure, but, 2 doors up, you've got a pretty substantial structure right there.
Yes, there's also an interesting, and I can't tell whether it's just a duplex, but at 234 Coxwell, it's a 3.5 to 4 story massing. It may not have the same number of units, but interestingly, it's a more imposing massing, I would say, than 238 Coxwell, although permitted quite clearly. It may not have the same number of units as 238 Coxwell because you see those 2 front doors, and I can't tell again whether that's sort of a duplex, fourplex, what's in there. But again, just the type of varied multi-unit 4-story built form that's on Coxwell.
And if I may just also observe, it's one of those things I'm observing in terms of relative situations. In the 234 is also built from lot line to lot line. From the north side and south side.
Correct.
I thank you so much for your response. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, then panel, if there are no further questions, let us take this application into committee. And we can move toward a motion and have some discussion in advance of that if you'd like. Mr. Byatt, go ahead. We're now in committee.
I'll just start off with some comments, Chair. Again, I'd like to thank Mr. Bronskill for a very good presentation, as always. I think this is an extremely important project and extremely well thought out in terms of the layout and design of the project. I do appreciate some of the concerns that people in opposition have expressed. Some, I think, may have some validity to it. Others, I'm not so sure. However, I certainly think this is an excellent project and for the area in particular. So I'd be quite in favor of approving this project without any, I don't believe there are any conditions except for forestry number 3.
Thank you.
Through the chair, sorry to interrupt. It appears I'm getting word that there were some extra interested speakers that were on the line for this one. So Jacob, perhaps if you could please confirm if there are some extra people on the line who do wish to speak. I just want to make sure everybody's captured.
We can certainly backtrack and look after that. Thank you, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer. Okay, moderator, we have speakers.
Hi, Sadaf or AJ, you've been unmuted to speak.
Okay, we have one. Okay, then we'll hear the speaker too. I'm sorry that we did not hear you originally. This is your opportunity now to address the panel. Go ahead, please.
AJ, do you want to speak?
Hi, are you able to speak up? We cannot hear you too well.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now you're clear. Go ahead, please.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Sadaf, and I live at 261 Rhodes Avenue, which is directly behind 230 Coxwell. Our family is extremely concerned about this development as it will decrease our quality of life, health, and well-being. Moreover, the proposed building will have an additional strain on our community. So I'm not going to repeat what a lot of the other folks said, but I would like to add a couple of things. So the zoning bylaws exist to protect the stability, growth for the economy, environment, infrastructure, social, community, health, and wellness. But given the zoning bylaws that have been presented, they will have a negative impact. So one will be privacy, right now, we participate in our backyard. We open our windows in our backyard or within our homes. And with this four-story complex, it makes us very uncomfortable continuing these activities, and it will force us to sort of live within our home and sort of shut out the backyard. From a sunlight perspective, the shadow study, it actually, when you look at the sunlight, it removes the morning light completely. The shadow study was completed for March and September, but from a gardening perspective, most of those activities actually occur between May and August, which is the longest days. And if you look at the sunlight, most of the morning sunlight with the four-story up until noon, 1 o'clock will be removed, so we will not receive any of this morning sunlight. This has a negative impact on our health, such as our mood, mental, sleep, and immune system, family bonding activities, growing food in our gardens, as well as bacteria, which kills the sun kills bacteria in our homes. When I think about the different, on the application, there were 4 studies that were waived but are critical. This includes the parking, traffic operation, geotechnical study, and the hydrological review. Details are in my letter, but given this proposed study, I'm not sure why these were waived. They are critical and they should have been submitted. The applicant had sufficient time. Their geotechnical review was completed 3 years ago, so there's absolutely no reason why any of the studies should have been waived or not completed. Also, within the application, they excluded over 10 studies which help us understand the impact of the proposed building. This includes noise impact, community services, and facility studies. So overall, the importance of the zoning and bylaws is to protect the proposed building, neighboring homes, and community, and therefore should be followed and completed. From a letters of support and opposition perspective, all the letters of support are from people who do not live in the area and are not directly impacted by the development. There are a couple of folks on the street who support this development, but they are not directly impacted as they do not live adjacent to this property. We as a team were able to garner 100 signatures from our family and friends who understand the impact. 25% of those signatures are people who live in this area, and it includes every single person who is directly impacted and lives directly next to this property. I also want to make sure that we note that within this area, there are approximately, based on what I could find, 450 affordable and community housing units, and we don't want to strain and overwhelm the surrounding infrastructure. From a timing perspective, like I mentioned, 3 years ago, the geotechnical review was completed, so it provided the applicant sufficient time to connect with the community, to complete the review, to understand the impact on the neighborhood. And finally, you know what? Many people will say, and I've heard this from the developers, that, you know, you can't choose your neighbors. But in this situation, the neighbor doesn't come in the form of 20 people. This is significantly overwhelming and has caused a significant amount of anxiety and stress. Our community, after talking to a lot of our neighbors, we all believe helping others is important, but we want equality, respect, and consideration for existing community members. Our needs should not be secondary. Our home is our sanctuary. It is a place where our family comes together, and it is a foundation for our health and well-being. So
I will ask you now.
I'll
ask you now to make your final comment, please.
Yep. So we just want to make sure that the health and well-being of our neighbors and community are considered, and that this building stays within the rules that are in place.
Thank you very much. Panel members, are there any questions for this speaker? Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Just one quick question to the person in opposition. From a Google image, there appears to be very large trees in your backyard. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. All right then. I'm glad that we got to that speaker, and good that we backtracked there a little bit. So my apology to the panel. We were in committee, and we obviously came out of committee to hear that speaker. We shall now go back into committee. Mr. Biden has spoken. Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. First off, just want to thank everyone who wrote in, both for and in opposition, and who called in today. I want to assure everyone that we read all the material, and we certainly listened carefully this morning. Having said that, I agree with Zahir. I think this is a commendable project, and I look at the variances that are before us, and overall, I find them to be relatively minor. The only one that originally gave me pause was the height, but I think Mr. Bronskill pointed out, and I think rightly so, that the permitted height is 12 meters plus an allowable 2 meters for the parapet. So in effect, this is lower than it could have been as of right. I do note that from an overlook perspective, there are no balconies. There is no rooftop amenity. The amenity space is on the ground floor. And as Mr. Bronska pointed out, while it will be used, I think, for some type of recreation, it really is access. And it appears to be appropriately screened from the neighbors. So I think that's a good thing. And lastly, notwithstanding all the things that here pointed out about the importance of this type of facility, I would note that it is on Coxwell, which is a major thoroughfare, right next to Gerrard, which is a major thoroughfare, very well served by transit. And frankly, this kind of development should be in areas where there is good access to transit. So I think in that regard, it is well suited for this area and an appropriate development in context with other developments which appear to be of similar size. So for those reasons, I think it's quite a supportable application.
Thank you. Mr. Reid, do you care to say anything?
Sure, thanks, Chair. I agree with both of my colleagues. I think they've raised the main points that I wanted to bring up. The zoning in this area is quite permissive. I was surprised to see that the variances are so minor. I think what's being proposed, the incremental increase in impacts over what's permitted, is really really minor. And I think from a minor variance perspective, it's certainly easily supportable from my perspective. I do commend a lot of the residents and neighbors for their participation, and I think there's a significant, obviously, concern in the neighborhood. Some of the concerns raised were fair, I think, but I feel I would be remiss if I didn't say that some of the information that got brought up, and especially in one of the letters, that the information and the insinuations on the population that will be using the building were unfortunate, and I was really disappointed to see that. I'm not saying all of the participants were like that, but there were a couple letters that were disappointing in that regard. Anyway, I'll be supporting the application.
And for my part, I will also be supporting it. Yes, I noted those letters you're referring to. The vast majority of the persons speaking to the application were supporting, or were voicing very strong support for the need and the desirability of this kind of project. What I heard from the speakers who were in opposition was their concern about the timeline, that it seemed to be short. So, and I understand that the application was moved up, but I feel better now because I did confirm with the Deputy Secretary Treasurer that in fact, even though the timeline was moved up, still it was not compressed, that the city timeline guidelines were followed there. So there was adequate time according to the city guidelines. So I will also be supporting the application. And I look to someone on the committee for a motion, please. Mr. Byatt.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be happy to move a motion to approve. Forestry condition number 3 is the only one that I can see.
Thank you, Mr. Byatt. Is there a second too? It is seconded. Seconded by Mr. Reid. So therefore, moved and seconded to approve, subject to forestry. All those in favor, please indicate by show of hands. And that vote is unanimous. The motion is carried and the application is so approved. Thank you, panel. We move on now to item number 2. (617) Glenholme Avenue. On this application, the committee has before it those materials submitted at the time of application. There are 2 photographs of the subject property, including a tree, and there is 1 form letter in support, signed by the owners or occupants of 615 Glenholme. So, moderator, let's have the agent join us for this application, please.
Hello, Joe. You've been unmuted.
Yes, my name is Joe Dome, 133 Torresdale Avenue, agent for the applicant.
Good morning to you. Let's just see if the panel wants a presentation. Anyone requesting a presentation? I'm not seeing any requests. Okay, then, any questions for the agent panel? Mr. Bite, go ahead.
Just a quick one. I was trying to figure out if the deck on the 3rd floor is fairly large, but it looks like it's reasonable within the context of the extension. But I just wondered about the height of the side screening, the side walls of the deck.
Yes, the height, I believe it's on the elevation here. That would be 1.07 meters.
1.07. I know. I think it may have an overlook on the one side, if I'm not mistaken, or perhaps both sides. I can't quite figure out that one.
It does have an overlook on both sides. However, the attached semi, it's onto the roof of the 2nd story.
So you may not have as much of an overlook on one side. Is that?
That's right.
Yeah. So I wonder if on the side that really might matter more, if the side of the deck could be raised to 1.5 meters.
Yes, privacy screening would be acceptable.
Thank you.
Hearing no further questions, looking to someone for a motion, please. Mr. Byatt, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's a fairly straightforward application. There really aren't any major issues. The only concern I have would be with the screening. So, and as the applicant has indicated, they're quite okay with privacy screening of 1.5 meters on the 3rd floor deck. I'd like to move motion to approve.
Thank you. Second on that. There is a second, Mr. Reed. Mr. Clay, sorry. Moved and seconded to approve. All in favor, please. Show of hands. And that vote is unanimous. The motion carries. The application is approved. Item number 3 is 48 Pepler. Here we have before us those materials submitted at the time of application and a 2016 Committee of Adjustment decision which affects the property. Let's have the agent join us, please, moderator.
Hello, Raid. You've been unmuted.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ryder Rawi from Professional Floor Plans, 4183 Loyalist Drive, Mississauga, Ontario, L5L3W3. I'm the designer and the agent in front of you.
Good morning to you. Okay, panel members, any questions here? Not hearing any. Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Similar to the last file, I'm just wondering for the agent if because the rear deck is right next to the property line, if privacy screening on the south side would make sense?
The deck is at the grade level and it's in line with the house. It's not encroaching to the neighbors. It's just at the same line with the house. If we see the elevation, the site plan, the first page, if we go, or the other elevation, Yeah, so see the site plan. The deck is in line with the house. It's not encroaching to the house. So
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I understand that. I'm just saying that the south edge of the deck is pretty close to the southern neighbors, and I think some privacy screening might benefit both the homeowner and the neighbor to the south. Is that okay with you, or would you have?
of course, it's okay if the committee looks into that. But I mean, I don't believe it's required. It's not on the second story. It's not having a height, but it's fine. If the committee wishes to add this as a condition, it's fine with the owner.
Thanks a lot.
Anyone ready to move forward toward a motion? Mr. Reed.
Thanks, Chair. The reason I bring that up is just because the deck is raised slightly off the ground, and so I think there is some potential for overlook. So I think the variances being requested are minor and really have minimal impact. I move approval subject to the south side of the ground floor deck have screening to 1.5 meters.
Thank you. That is seconded by Mr. Byatt. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please, show of hands. That vote unanimous. Motion carries. Application is approved. Item number 4 is 196 Borden Street. Before us are those materials submitted at application, revised plans May 24 and May 30, photograph of comparables, correspondence May 24 from the agent, from the applicant May 24, there's a zoning map from the applicant May 29, email correspondence from Community Planning 30th of May, staff report from Community Planning 29th of May. There is opposition correspondence from Harbour Village Residents Association, from 194 Borden, would appear to be next door, 192 and 190 Borden, also opposition correspondence. Okay. Let's have the agent join us, please.
Yes,
Good morning.
good morning.
If you would please state your name.
Joseph Mazzatelli.
Joseph, you have 5 minutes to present your application to the panel. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This proposal is for an addition to an existing building at the rear. This infill will occupy the gap between the existing buildings and so be an important and improvement to the streetscape. This continuation of Victorian-style facades will complement and enhance the street. Our variances are minor in nature, and so are consistent with a previous similar approval, C of A decision at 165 Brunswick Avenue, and you'll find that under the linked document. This is 1 block away. Please see it in the file. It was approved with 9 variances similar to ours. It is my opinion that this addition meets the 4 tests. It is minor, desirable to the streetscape, and within the zoning and official plan. Also, it is encouraged by the city for residential infill. And it is supported by the city planner. The city planner does not object to this proposal, and he has made a recommendation as well. We have no height variance, and in the file you'll see a similar 4-story building that was built a few years ago that is nearby, about 2 blocks away. We ask that you approve this application as it is reasonable and appropriate improvement to the neighborhood and the streetscape. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, panel? Okay, we'll move along then. We have some speakers. I'm just going to check moderator. How many speakers are you showing at this stage, registered and standing by?
To you, Mr. Chair, we have 3 speakers standing by, and I've confirmed with one that he will not be attending.
Could you tell me which one that is, please?
Glenn Wheeler from 182 Borden.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Let's have the first speaker.
Actually, sorry, Chair. This is Peter. I do have a question for the
Oh,
for
go
the
ahead.
applicant.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Just to the applicant or the agent, I'm aware that you sent in revised plans and we've reviewed those, but I just wanted to check that if any of the variances have changed as a result of those plans. Like the FSI maybe for variance 1, is that still the same?
Well, with the planner's recommendation of infilling the ground floor, the coverage would increase.
Yeah, so I'm just worried that that variance is going to be higher than what went out in the notice. So could you just look at the variances and tell us which ones are changing from your list, please?
Well, I'm not certain, but the coverage I think would increase to 2.89, and there might be also a variance on the parking.
Well, we have to get this down very clearly, because otherwise what the panel will be voting on is the application as distributed to the public. And that's what we'll be voting on, and if we happen to approve it, that's what would be approved. So Mr. Reed has raised an important question. If any of your 5 variances have changed, we need to change them for the record, because that's how you would want them to be voted upon.
Chair, his variances, sounds like they've increased, and Peter's point is about notice. And it may well be that we can't deal with this today. It would be, it'd be required to be recirculated. So maybe we can get some clarification on that.
Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, we are looking for clarification in this regard, please.
Through the chair, that is correct. Larry took the words out of my mouth. Of course, if there is variances that are increasing, then that would require new notice. So the agent will have to clearly state for the record what variances they are still seeking and what they wish to change. And if it is being increased, then that will require a deferral for new notice.
Right, exactly. Okay. So, Agent, are you following this discussion, Agent?
Yes.
Yes, so if any of the variances increase, and that is if they become more, if they increase in terms of their variance from the bylaw, then we're going to have to defer the application.
Yes, I understand. It's a bit of an odd situation. The planner is asking us to actually fill in the parking spaces. I suppose you could approve the previous submission, but the new recommendation from the planners to fill it in, so our coverage would increase.
Well, in that case, I'm afraid it's starting to look pretty clear that we have to, or that we would be advised to defer. Now, that being the case, we do have to recognize that there are registered speakers patiently standing by, and I'm just going to, first of all, check with those speakers in order to get their view on this idea of a deferral, because certain of the variances could be becoming more rigorous. Let's go to the first speaker who was just about to come on with us.
Hi, Robert. You've been unmuted.
Thank you. Hello, can the panel hear me?
We do hear you, Robert.
Thank you for your attention to this. You hit on one of the points I wanted to raise.
Okay, Robert, I don't want to get into your points at this stage.
Okay.
My apology to you. I don't want to be rude. But if we're going to defer this application, then, and the committee's going to consider that and vote on it, then I just wanted to let you know that would be because we have to, because some of the variances could become more rigorous and farther from the bylaw. So would you be okay with our deferring the application in order to allow a recirculation?
I have no objection to that. I would actually urge the committee to deny the proposal and have this start from the beginning. There's an examiner's report needs to be done again.
Okay, let's not get into the detail. Okay.
Well, do I have an opportunity I don't object to deferral, would be, I guess, answer your question.
Yeah.
I would ask for more if there's an opportunity to speak to that point. If there isn't, I'm guided by you.
There is not. We are just dealing with the question of deferral. We're not dealing with any of the items that relate to the application itself because it's about to be deferred and probably changed. I'm going to check now with the other two registered speakers standing by. Next one, moderator.
Hello, Wendy. You've been unmuted.
Hello. Thank you very much.
Wendy, how would you feel about a deferral?
I would be very, very happy with a deferral because everything's been so last minute on the changes.
Thank you very much. Sorry to be quick on this, but if we're not going to deal with it today, there's no point in getting into the nitty gritty. But thank you for
I
your...
understand.
Yeah, thank you.
I understand.
Okay. And do we have one more standing by, moderator?
Hello, Joshua. You've been unmuted.
Yes, can you hear me?
Clearly, yes. Good day.
Great. I'm in favor of a deferral as well. Yes, please, a deferral.
Thank you very much for that. Okay. We can now return to the panel. Panel will take the application into committee and we can discuss or move to a motion with respect to this issue of whether or not we want to defer. Any thoughts? Anyone ready to move to a motion? Mr. Reid, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I think it's pretty clear that we have to. Variance 1 will change, plus I think there'll be a new parking variance involved. So I move that the application be deferred for recirculation.
Very good. Seconded, Mr. Clay. Moved and seconded to defer. Those in favor, please show hands. Vote unanimous. Motion carried. The application is deferred. Thank you, panel, and thank you, speakers. Okay. With that, the panel moves on to number 5, 72 Warren Road. Here we are looking at those materials submitted time of application. Revised plans submitted May 26 and 30. Revised zoning notice. Redlined public notice. There is a previous Committee of Adjustment decision from 2021. And there's a cover letter from the agent. We have correspondence from Transportation Engineering and Transportation Services, and a staff report from Urban Forestry. Let's have the agent join us, please. Moderator.
Hello, Robert. You've been unmuted.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I do hear you. Could you state your name, please?
Hi, Robert McCackey Architecture.
Very good. Okay, Robert, you're now with the committee. Okay, so panel members, are there any questions for this agent?
Chair, can we just, is there anyone speaking in opposition?
There is actually no one registered on this one to speak in opposition, no. Would you like a presentation? We can
Let's just, maybe we could just get the agent to confirm there's been a red line version. It looks like there's been a change that removes the variances with respect to bicycle parking and parking spaces. So can we just confirm that with them?
Let's get the, yes, if you could, agent, just give us the background to what Mr. Clay is referring to, the removal of those items. How did that happen? What's the rationale there?
The C of A technician just advised that we could easily remove, it's pretty obvious, we could just locate those parking spots on the driveway that extends into the backyard. So we just added the annotation on the site plan to show where the bicycle and vehicular parking is, so we could remove those.
Okay.
So that's variance 7 and 8, right? So 7 and 8 are gone?
That's right. Like we didn't make any changes to soft landscaping or like it's really just simply adding lines to an annotation to the drawing.
Okay, but for the record, we are dealing with the application with variances number 7 and number 8 deleted at the applicant's request. So we're dealing with 6 variances. But my question for you, Agent, would be with respect to height. You're proposing 8 meters where 6 meters is permitted. Could you comment on why I should be satisfied that that's an appropriate and desirable and minor change?
I mean, in this neighborhood, the lot sizes are larger, the buildings, the houses here are of a grander scale, and we're replacing an existing 2-story garage in the rear yard that was of a similar height. The roof structure was partially demolished when we got there. We were called in after some demolition work had started. So from photos, we approximated and calculated that's about what was the right height. And in our committee of adjustment application last year, which wasn't a garden suite, but was a 2-story garage, that was the height that we applied for and were approved for. So we just matched that for this application.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. First, I just want to say the rendition that you presented of this suite is quite interesting. Just a quick question with regard to the conditions that were set out last year in February, and now we have got the application for garden suite. What's changed since then? Is it the regulations related to garden suites or something else?
Yeah, because the garden suite bylaw became active. We just wanted to change the use of the building, not as a garage with storage rooms above, but it's now a garden suite. So there's 1 bedroom on the 2nd floor, and otherwise footprint's the same area. I mean, the aesthetic of it is a little bit different, but it's the same height, same setbacks.
Thank you.
Okay. If no further questions, let's go into committee and move to a motion, please. Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I too was originally concerned a little bit about the height because it does exceed what the permitted height is for garden suites. But I think the applicant's correct. The lot fabric in this area is really quite large, and I think the lot can quite capably handle the extra height. I thought it was a rather handsome design for a garden suite, actually. So I think it'd be a good addition to the neighborhood. The variances, with the exception of the height, are really quite modest. And as the applicant points out, this was approved for roughly the same thing a year ago. I know Peter was on that committee. So I think it's a supportable application. I'd like to move approval subject to forestry condition number 2.
Thank you. That is seconded by Mr. Byatt.
As amended, Larry?
To the Chair, as amended, yes.
As amended, deleting variances 7 and 8.
The application as amended is, there's a motion to approve the application as amended. Thank you. Mr. Byatt, you're seconding?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So it is moved and seconded to approve the amended application. Those in favor, please. Show of hands. Vote unanimous. Motion carried, and the application as amended is approved. Panel moves to number 6, 119 Merton Street, units 1210 and 1216. On this application, before us are plans submitted, photographs of the property, a decision affecting the property, cover letter from the agent May 29, site-specific bylaws affecting the property, and correspondence in support from the Metro Toronto Condominium Corporation at 119 Merton. Let's have the agent join us, please.
Hi, it's Larry Mintoff speaking.
Good morning to you. Okay, panel, questions here? Not hearing any. Okay. Is anyone ready on the panel with a motion? Mr. Reed, go ahead, please.
Sure, thanks, Chair. I think this is very reasonable. These are all internal changes and just filling in mezzanine levels, and so I can see no negative impacts on neighbors within or exterior to the building. So I move approval with no conditions.
Thank you so much. Seconded by Mr. Byatt. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please. Show of hands. Motion is carried. The application is approved. Thank you. Number 7 is 21 Oriole Gardens. On this application before us are materials submitted at application time. There's an arborist report. There's a letter of clearance from the Acting Supervisor Tree Protection and Plan Review, Urban Forestry. There's a staff report from Urban Forestry, May 24th, and correspondence supporting from 17, 23, and 25 Oriole Gardens. Let's have the agent join us.
Hello there, can you hear me?
Clearly, yes. Good, you're with us. Please state your name.
Thank you. I'm Charlie Tonin from Scott Shields Architects, 317 King Street West. I'm the agent for the applicant for this project.
Very good. Just 1 second. I'm going to see if the panel has questions for you or whether they would like a presentation. Panel?
Chair, just can we confirm, it looks like you've gotten clearance on the forestry condition that we have in our package?
Yes.
You have gotten clearance, so you're good to go.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Not any other questions, so we can actually move on to a motion if someone on the panel is ready. Mr. Byatt, go right ahead.
Thank you, Chair. This is a very, very straightforward application, and the only condition has already been cleared. So I have no concerns about recommending or approving, putting forward a motion to approve with no conditions.
Thank you. Mr. Reed seconds that motion. Moved and seconded to approve. All in favor, please show hands. And that vote is unanimous to carry the motion and approve the application. Number 8 is 19 Humber Trail. Before us, we have the materials submitted, photographs of the property from February, and there is a previous Committee of Adjustment decision from 2022. Moderator, let's have the agent with us.
Hello. Hello. My name is George Reguera from Studio Ray Architecture. I'm the applicant, and if the committee members have some questions, I'm here. If not, it's a very straightforward application.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning to you. Panel members, are there any questions? I'm not hearing any, so I'd look to panel for a motion, please. Mr. Reed, carry on.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is very straightforward, and the addition really does match up with the built form that's in the neighborhood and on that block. The variances are minor, and I see no negative impacts from approving them, so I move approval with no conditions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Byatt seconds your motion. It is moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please show hands. And that vote carries the motion, and the application is approved. Number 9, 318 Pape Avenue. We have applicant materials submitted, revised plans submitted May 18 and 29. There is a red line zoning review, May the 18th. And there is a staff report from Community Planning.
Through the chair, I would just like to bring to the members' attention, there was a late report received from Community Planning that rescinds their previous staff report. Thank you, staff. If I can ask you to pull that up. Thank you. So you can see on the screen, Community Planning staff is now recommending refusal of the application, given that the applicant is no longer willing to changes or revisions to the ancillary structure. So the previous Community Planning report recommending various conditions has now been rescinded, and Community Planning staff are now recommending refusal of the application.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right then, let's go to the agent. Agent?
Hello, Sarah, you've been unmuted.
This is Sarah Maddy, 1356 Ware Chase, Mississauga. I'm the agent.
Okay, Sarah, I'd like you to give us a presentation on your application, please. Just hang on for a second, stand by. Do we have anyone standing by here, moderator, to speak?
Yes, we do.
Very good. Sarah, go ahead and if you would, we'd like your presentation. And the Deputy Secretary Treasurer has noted that there is now a Community Planning staff report to our attention recommending refusal. You may wish to address that in your comments to us, but go ahead. You have 5 minutes to present your proposal to the panel. Go ahead.
Okay, so we are proposing a rear one-story addition and a no two-car garage at the rear yard. The original proposal we submitted to the city has been revised last week, and we submitted it back to the city, and we did receive the zoning letter. However, we have revised our drawings back to the original proposal, and we submitted the revised drawings just yesterday. So that's the one you're looking at right now. And the reason behind this last minute changes is because there was a miscommunication between us, the designers, and the owner. The owner didn't approve of the changes we made last week. So that's why they want to go back to the original proposal.
Valerie?
No? Sorry, can you hear me?
I do hear you, yes, yes.
Yeah, so my client would like to keep the original proposal as they believe the existing neighboring areas houses already contain garages built similar size, which is at the back of the house, same as what we originally proposed. And the original proposal reflects the following. So the garage length, 6 meters, the garage width, 4.66 meters, the garage setbacks, 0.09 meters, the rear setback, 0.94 meters, the center lane to the garage, 2.47 meters, the garage height, 4.82 meters, garage area, 27.96 square meters, which is 15.77%. and the proposed FSI is 0.74, which is 130.7 square meters. So the reason why we want to keep the double car garage is because there's consistency in the neighborhood. Almost every home in our laneway has a double car garage that spans the entire width of the lot. All of those houses are on lots the same size as ours. It would be very inconsistent to only allow single car garage when most have double car garages. And the second reason is security. There have been a few car break-ins, bike thefts, and stolen backyard furniture within the community, including a neighbor's SUV that was stolen. So a full-size garage would allow for securing our belongings and bring peace of mind. This would also be beneficial for the city given the rising rate of property theft. And lastly, the property value. Adding a full-size garage would add value to the property and the city by adding storage and a covered parking space.
Thank you.
Chair?
Okay,
Sorry.
Sarah, just 1 second. Sarah, your comments are through at this stage then? Okay. Moderator, could you ensure that we still have Sarah with us?
Hi, Sarah, are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, but Sarah, did you stop speaking then? And because I think we lost you.
I'm sorry. Did you hear the reasoning why we would like to keep the original proposed two-car garage?
Yeah, yes, we did. So if that was yes, we heard that clearly. We did hear your rationale there. Okay.
Yeah.
I think maybe we didn't miss anything then. Okay. All right. Panel members, are there questions at this stage? Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. So I just want to be clear in understanding, you've talked an awful lot about retaining the two-car garage versus something else. And is that the coverage issue that planning staff was concerned about? And it looks like planning staff were also originally concerned about setback from the center point of the lane. So can you just give us a little bit of context about the discussions that you and your client have had with planning staff so we understand what the concern is?
Yeah, so with the planning examiner, we discussed reducing the size of the garage. However, we did reduce it, and the city planner was happy with that, but our client doesn't want that because most of the garages in the neighborhood, they have double car garages. So why not? Why can't they have a double car garage?
And there is an existing two-car garage there now.
That's the proposed.
No. Is the existing structure a two-car garage?
No.
It's a one-car garage. What's there now? Chair?
Hello, Sarah, are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now hear you.
We are proposing a two-car garage, and currently there is no.
Sorry, so there is no garage there now, and you're proposing a two-car garage, is that correct?
Jesus.
Sarah, but we're not able to hear your responses. Mr. Clay is going to repeat his question, and let's try this again.
Sarah, are you there?
Yes.
I think we just want to get clarification. So currently there is nothing there, or maybe it's a parking pad, and you're proposing a 2-car garage where there is no structure currently. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
That is correct. Okay. Thank you.
Through the chair, can we also have the agent clarify what variances are actually before us currently? So the public hearing notice went out, and then we received from the agent a revised zoning review, which has reduced a number of variances. So is the applicant proceeding with the redlined zoning review in which they've reduced the variances, or are they wishing to so is it an amended application, or are they wishing to proceed with the original application as per the original public hearing notice?
Thank you, Madam
With
Deputy
the original.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer. Let's find out the answer to that very important question from the agent.
We'd like to proceed with the original zoning letter.
Okay, so you want to proceed with the original, and you want us to disregard the redlined document.
Yes, that's correct.
And go back to the original. Okay. Panel members, that's important. We do have someone standing by who wants to speak on this, I understand. So let's go to that speaker now and have that speaker join us by stating their name.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the speakers appear to have left the meeting. I will try contacting them via phone. In the meantime, the owner of the application has their hand up.
The owner is there?
Yes.
Okay, well, perhaps because this is a little confusing, we'll actually give the owner a chance to speak. So,
Committee, my name is Stefan Sandu, owner 318 Pape Avenue. I did want to clarify, the main contention with the application and the suggested adjustments is strictly the size of the garage. Currently, there is a parking pad there beyond our fencing, which we utilize to park two cars in currently. What we're trying to do is build a structure that allows us to continue to park 2 vehicles at the back of our home. The city planner did suggest a 1-car garage, which utilizes approximately 60% of the width of the lot to have a single-car garage. That would obviously then take away our ability to park 2 cars. So if that's going to be the case where we're not allowed to build a 2-car garage, we would simply continue with our parking pad and maybe look at alternatives. But we're hoping that the consistency of the neighborhood and our ask to build a 2-car garage would be considered strongly, knowing that others in the area do have that, and it is a net benefit for property value and security.
thank you very much. Questions for the owner? Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Thanks. That was very helpful. Have you had discussions? I got 2 questions. Had discussions with your neighbors in terms of their support or concern? And secondly, I'm just looking at a Google image of the laneway, and you mentioned fencing along your back, and then you've got a 2-car parking pad. Where the fencing is right now, is that the extent of what you're proposing to construct your laneway house, or is it different from that setback?
So I believe it goes a little bit closer to the house, just based on the size of the garage. Just to be clear, it's not a laneway house. It's strictly for garage use to park vehicles. So it goes beyond the fencing a little bit. I've spoken to both neighbors on either side of the house, so 316 and 320. Both have no major concerns with the garage sizing proposed. In fact, 320 indicated they might look at potentially building a garage as well. As you can see there, 322 has quite a big garage, so we're trying to kind of stay consistent in the neighborhood of what else is there.
Sorry, thanks. Thanks. I don't know why I was thinking it was laneway, but you're right. It's only a one-story, and you're not looking for a height variance, right? Or
No,
you are looking for a height variance.
We'd absolutely decrease the height if it means achieving the two-door garage. If it means coming down a little bit, we're happy to do that.
So variance number 3 is seeking 4.82. So you're saying that you would potentially eliminate that variance?
Yes, if it means achieving the width and length for 2 vehicles, we would definitely give up the height, for sure. As long as we can still park 2 cars in the garage.
Well, I'm going to give you the opportunity here then, owner. Do you wish to delete that number 3?
Absolutely. We would delete that height variance then.
Okay, so for the record, we are deleting minor variance number 3 from consideration. It's no longer on the application. If we were to approve the application, variance number 3 is deleted.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, panel?
My indulgence for one last question.
Go for it.
Is the setback from the center line? So it's just a very modest change from what's permitted. Would that be in line with the other garages that are along the laneway on your side?
I would have to let the designer and agent speak to that behalf. I am not 100% certain, but I do see it's a very, very minor variance.
Well, let's go to the agent then.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello, Sarah. We've had some difficulty connecting with Sarah before and appear to be having it again, but it is extremely minor. It's 0.03 meters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Sarah is trying there to connect, I think.
Hi, Sarah, you've been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Now we do, Sarah. At this moment, we do hear you. Yes.
Yeah, so the proposed garage, we're not sure if it will align with the neighbor's garage, as the survey does not show that. However, that variance is very minor, and we can push it by 0.03 meters to avoid that variance altogether.
Okay, so we're going to eliminate that variance too. Let's do that.
Is there any other variances you plan to remove?
I don't believe
so. No. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So for the record, variance number 2 is being deleted at the applicant's request. Panel members, we're now dealing with the original application minus those number 2 and number 3. So we're dealing with 4 variances as they were originally circulated. That is the application as amended that the panel has before it. Let me check with the moderator. Moderator, has that one speaker that you were trying to connect with been raised?
Yes.
Okay.
I was able to reach them, so...
To repeat this menu, press the pound key.
Sorry about that. No, they were not.
They were not. Okay, we've tried hard there, though, to get that speaker. All right, then. Panel members, if you have further questions for either the agent or the owner, otherwise we can go into committee on this application. Let's take it into committee, please. Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just start off with some comments. It has been a little puzzling for me, but thanks to you and folks involved with clarity. I think with the removal of the 2 variances, what we see before us, and it's not a laneway suite. Thank you, Larry, for asking that, because sometimes we get puzzled. But if it's just a garage, and there are precedents in that laneway of for two-car garages, it would not be unusual. I think the remaining variances, as far as I can see, are quite minor. So I certainly don't see any issue with this particular application. I'd like to hear from my colleagues and see what you have to say.
Yeah, I would agree. Notwithstanding planning staff's recommendation to refuse, overall, this doesn't seem to be in any way an egregious application, given that there are a number of homes on both sides of that laneway that have two-car garages. When we see a garage, I think it's reasonable to expect that a two-car garage or a one-car garage can be built within the 4-meter height bylaw. So I was glad to see that could be reduced. It doesn't sound like there's any opposition from the neighbors. In fact, I think there's an acknowledgement that that's a fairly common practice on that laneway. I agree with Zahir. I don't think the variances otherwise are at all significant. And I can, notwithstanding planning's recommendation, I think I can support this application as well.
I agree as well. The only comment I wanted to say is I think having a two-car garage is actually better in this situation than a one. I think with the single garage, you're left with this basically unusable space at the side, and at least in this fashion, it's usable space.
Is that a motion, Peter?
For my part, I agree with my colleagues on this. So we're dealing with an amended motion. Anyone like to go forward with an amended application? Sure.
I'll move a motion to approve the application as amended. That's with variance 2 and variance 3 being deleted.
Thank you. Is there a second to that? It is seconded, Mr. Clay. So it is moved and seconded to approve the application as amended. Those in favor, please show of hands. Unanimous vote. Motion carried. The application as amended is approved. And thank you, panel. Okay, at this stage, panel is going to recess briefly for 10 minutes until 10 minutes to 12. So a 10-minute recess until 10 minutes to 12. Thank you.
Just the first one took like a good hour. Yeah. Yeah, that one's like it's in a weird spot.
pay very good attention to, staff reports, like the one that recommended refusal there, but I think we were right not to, I read that staff report,
Yeah. Came in late too.
Yeah, it came in late, I don't know. It's a bit out of left field, yeah. I think that was,
Yeah, they knocked down the height, so that was good.
Hmm?
They like decreased the height to 4
yeah, and they
meters.
did do those
so that
two
was
things,
good.
yes,
Yeah.
so. We knocked off two variances and
One more minute.
just about a minute, okay. We resume. And we resume with number 10 on our agenda, 165 Westminster Avenue. Before us are those materials submitted at the time of application and 4 photographs of the subject property. And moderator, is there one person standing by in interest on this application?
Yes, there is.
Thank you, okay. Let's have the agent join us, please.
Hello, Tura speaking. I'm the architect and agent.
I'm sorry, would you mind repeating your name, please?
Tura, that's T-U-R-A.
Very good, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, you have 5 minutes to present your application to the committee. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Yes, so just like to know, the owners for this property are looking to convert a coach house workspace. It's currently a 2-story space in their backyard into a garden suite. So many of the notes on minor variances, such as the setbacks, height, are all for an existing building, which isn't grandfathered in as a garden suite. So just looking through the items here, one moment. The height or the 45-degree angular plane is not met because it's an existing 2-story building. And you can look at the photos entitled tree photos to see photos of what's currently existing, which shows a 2-story brick structure. And that's most of the points from 1 to 4 there, including the height. Doesn't meet the height, slightly over. And want to make a note on the side yard setback. That's referring to not the house, but a new porch structure, which is replacing the existing porch structure. And that's keeping the same setback of what is currently existing. And it's just, the intent is to rebuild what is currently existing at the porch, at the front of the house, so facing the main street on Westminster Avenue there. And then the last point, this is regarding the area of front yard landscaping. So this is a slight reduction in what's allowed from, we're offering 70% in the front to from 70 of 75 as a minimum. This is to introduce a basement walk-up, and the owner is acknowledging this, wants to plant a front yard tree. Enhance the greenscape of the street. One thing to note too, and you can see this in the existing photos, is though the percentage of the front yard's landscape is slightly below minimum, the overall house is above. Currently, if you see those photos, the backyardscape has 0% soft landscaping, which is currently all paved in concrete, and the intent is to add a portion of that as soft landscaping. And that is all I would like to add for the moment.
Okay, I do have a question for you at this stage, Agent Tom. Leave that photograph up, please, of the rear view. And as you just commented, that is 0% soft landscaping. What is your intent with respect to that?
If you take a look at the site plan, so there'll still be so there'll be a new deck and there'll be vehicular access. And then in addition to that, there will be soft landscaping yet to be designed. So it's converting a portion of what is currently all hard landscaping into soft landscaping.
And the percentage proposed is 16.5%.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so I think that's going to be the issue of soft landscaping is going to loom with respect to this application. Both front and rear are deficient, and as I look at it, I see some opportunities to improve that, but we'll go ahead. Okay. Panel members, any other questions at this stage for the applicant? Okay, I think we have one person standing by to speak, so let's go to that person now.
Hi, my name is Wendy Mayer, and my husband and I live next door at 167 Westminster Avenue, which is just one house west of 165. So our concern is the second-story balcony and door at 165 now being constructed at the rear of the house on the west-facing side. We have been living here in our home for over 23 years, and we're just trying to maintain our privacy, which we have had all these years, and we're not liking the fact that this balcony and door in question is looking directly at our rear deck and over our yard, which would completely affect our privacy. And even though we don't like the idea of the balcony at all, at this very least, we would like their door and balcony railing panels to be frosted glass, at least to try to retain some of the privacy for our deck. So, and you know, that's what I had to say basically, but it's also a complete change for us because the back house, which they're turning into a garden suite, and that's fine, but for all these 23 years, it's just been storage. There's never been a person living in there. So for us, that's a whole different thing too, but whatever. Anyway, I just wanted to say my piece. So.
Well, thank you, Wendy.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
This is about going to the rear of your property. You're
Okay.
right next door. So
Yeah.
The rear of at 165, of course, is entirely paved over. Now, I don't know whether your backyard is a higher or lower elevation than that one, but have you ever had difficulties with water coming into your backyard, draining off that asphalt?
into the backyard.
Coming into your backyard, because that next door neighbor
Is higher.
is higher and paved. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, is it higher or is it lower, but have
Well,
you had
it
any
was
issue?
higher. I don't know if they're changing that. I don't know how that's working, but it was definitely higher than ours. Yeah, but it's hard for me to say because it's just draining into more ground. So I mean, I don't know if it was there was never a structure there for it to drain into or whatever. But between the two houses, there's a bit of a drainage issue, but it's not further along. But I don't know how that would. I don't know if that's changing. Like I was wondering that myself in terms of the height. I don't know how that's going to work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's then go back to the agent who will have a chance to respond to Wendy's main concern, which was with respect to privacy and screening and overlook. Agent, you have an opportunity here to talk to that.
Great, thank you, Wendy, for your comment. So one thing I just want to note is the walkway and to the main house is not part of, the addition has already been approved by zoning and permits. So the construction of the terrace is currently under construction, and this is a variance for the garden suite and walkway, exterior walkway to the front, just to add that. But that being said, Wendy, my understanding that the new owners want to be good neighbors and would be happy to speak with you about this, about any privacy concerns that you may have. In regards to the draining, the intent will be to drain all within the property of 165 Westminster.
Okay, now just something I picked up on there that I think was new to me was you're mentioning that there is some construction underway. So are any of the variances that we are looking at this morning, any of them relate to work that has already been done and constructed?
No, not at all. So the variance for the garden suite is really to change of use to turn an existing two-story workspace garage in the back of the property into a garden suite. It's the intent of providing additional housing in the neighborhood. The work to the main house, which is underway, has already been approved in zoning and permitting. And then there's a few minor variances to the walkway and front porch at the front of the house.
Okay. Okay. Let me see if the panel has any questions for you. Panel members, questions for Mr. Clay first, Mr. Byatt second.
Sure. You've already heard the chair allude to the concern in the rear yard. I think it's fair to say we all probably have that very same concern. You mentioned you'd be adding a little bit of soft landscaping relative to the existing condition. It just seems, I'm sure I speak for all of us, it just seems like there's an opportunity to do an awful lot more. That asphalt or concrete back there is in horrible condition, could and should likely be replaced. And if you are going to be doing construction, you're already doing construction on an addition to the main dwelling. If you are doing that, it just seems that there is an opportunity to pull that concrete and replace it with soft landscaping. And in fact, I suspect if you did that, you wouldn't even need the soft landscaping variance. So I think it's fair to say that we would expect you to be able to do much better than you're currently proposing. And I wonder if you or your client would be able to pull most of that stuff, get rid of it, and replace it with soft landscaping.
Yes, so I think 2 parts. So the variance is, just to clarify, the variance is for the front yard, the soft landscaping in the front yard. And then the intent, so I think...
No. Variance number 1. Isn't variance number 1 with respect to the rear yard?
Sorry, yes, there is, pardon me, yes, there is... a
significant variance.
Right, yes, sorry, pardon, yes, there's the 2 variances. There's the front and then the rear yard. And the rear yard doesn't meet, and I just wanted to note that it's increasing. I think we'd be explore so that the rear yard will be still used for vehicular access, and it's a very tight lane, so the owners are hoping to turn around. I think they would really be interested in exploring, permeable pavers and potentially expanding that soft landscape as well.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, but I think what we would like to do here today is sort of nail that down.
Sure.
If your client is willing to add more soft landscaping, let's talk a little bit about how much that might be and where it would be.
Sure, that would be
It seems
great.
to me that there, notwithstanding the need for a turning radius or whatever, seems like there's a whole ton of potential to increase that number back there.
Yeah, sure, certainly.
So
Tura, the number that we're that would begin to sound reasonable in my mind would be getting that 16 improved to about 40%.
Well, I don't know what the number is, Chair, but maybe we could get, it would be great if we could eliminate it entirely. That's only 50%. 50%, that's half of the area between the existing dwelling and the proposed garden suite. That doesn't seem unreasonable given that it's entirely paved right now. So
Right.
maybe we can ask.
Look at the site plan if right now if the intent is to determine this at this meeting.
But we're sending you a message because we're going to be voting on this in a few minutes.
Yes.
So if you're looking for an approval, we're sending you a strong message here about, we're asking you at this stage, but we may in our own wisdom determine that it needs to be done.
And, okay, understood. And what percentage are you looking for?
Well, again, it's not for us to really pick a percentage. It's for you to kind of come up with something that is either meets the requirement or is very close to the requirement. So
understood.
So maybe you can give us something that we can react to.
Definitely, that could be done. And would this require are you asking for just a drawing subsequent to this meeting?
No, we're asking for if you could calculate the percentage that you would have as soft landscaping in the rear and the actual square meterage that would match up with.
Yes, that's definitely possible. It's an improvement to what's being shown, certainly.
We're asking you to do this now.
Oh, now.
We're asking you to do this. We're asking you to improve minor variance number 1 to a point where right now, I'll be frank, I can't support your application with minor variance number 1 because
understood. So I think it's definitely possible.
It's too deficient. You need to get that 16% improved dramatically in favor. Here's what we're getting at.
It's possible to double that, I see, looking at this site plan right now.
You need to go farther. Here's the issue. The committee has very, very strong focus on soft landscaping these days because the principle that we see is that each property should do its part in managing stormwater in the case of very, very significant rainfall. So each property should do its own part and not shift the job to the properties on either side. In your case, you have a very good opportunity. We can tell by that photograph for your property to do its full job of managing its own stormwater.
Understood. So yes, I think in response to that, can look for a way to make that work.
So I don't understand what you mean. Please say it again.
To meet the 50% or very close to that 50%.
Okay, so
the soft landscaping here.
So we could eliminate variance number 1.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's a very smart move, I think. And then so we are officially then going to amend the application to delete variance number 1. And I'd also ask you for the rationale. You are deficient also on the front landscaping. Why is the front landscaping deficient? Are there any opportunities there for improvement?
The front landscaping is slightly deficient with the new basement walkout which is just below the bay window. The property's to the right of your cursor there. And it's for a new walkout. It's with the shape of it, it's takes up, and where this property line setback is, it's a little bit less. I think there's opportunities for permeable pavers if possible. And as I mentioned previously, the owner is looking to plant a new tree to add to the tree canopy of the street.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Very good. Any other questions, panel? Mr. Byatt.
Yes, Chair. I won't repeat any of what's been said. I'm just looking at the purpose of the application, because the purpose is talking about alterations to the existing three-story detached dwelling. But all the variances seem to apply essentially to the garden suite or the ancillary building. I'm just wondering, is there the need to alter the purpose at all?
In response to that, so the only alteration to the existing dwelling for purposes of this minor variance is the front porch and basement walkout. Everything else is pertaining to the garden suite. And this might be a holdover from the examiner. Originally, it was all clumped together, but because the house, by and large, as a renovation could be approved, we separated the minor variance of the garden suite out.
Would that, thank you, but I was just wondering, because when you look at the first sentence in the purpose, it does talk about the rear second and third story balconies. So if that's in the purpose, when we talk about side screening for the balconies, could that not be something that we might end up saying, is it a condition that we'd like to put in? As you heard, the neighbor is concerned about that.
Yes, it's just the balconies aren't a specific condition addressed, but I think that could be something that could be discussed in terms of how to amend any privacy concerns.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are further questions, fine. If there are none, I think we're ready to take the application into committee as amended. So let's take it into committee now, and if anyone has comments. Mr. Byatt first, Mr. Clay second.
Thank you, Chair. I think with the removal of variance number 1, the application is much more palatable. And I'd like to certainly, because the purpose has included in it the rear second and third floor balconies, I'd also think it would be appropriate to put in a condition that there be screening on both sides of the balconies. I think for the second floor balcony, the screening perhaps may only need to be put onto one side, and I can't quite indicate which side it is. But for the third floor balcony, perhaps both sides, a regular screening of 1.5 meters. Outside of that, I think they've got a coach house that really is going to be transformed, and I think that may be an appropriate thing to do in this area. I think all of us would have had a huge issue with variance number 1, but since it's being eliminated, I think it's more palatable.
Thank you. Mr. Clay?
No, I would agree with Zahir's assessment. I think it's actually an excellent repurposing of that dwelling in the rear yard, so that's great. I think the applicant suggested for the front, the walkway could be constructed of permeable paver, so maybe we might want to put that in as well.
Yeah, I think if we
I'm not fussed about the 70 versus 70% in the front. I think that's pretty close.
I think it's okay having removed number 1. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the permeable pavers and the screening probably both should be incorporated into a motion. Anyone ready to go ahead with that? I think we've got a Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And then I'd like to move a motion to approve the application as amended, with the conditions that privacy screens be applied to the balconies on certainly on the both sides of the third floor. And on the second floor balcony, I can't remember. Perhaps staff may be able to indicate which side it is.
I think it was the east side.
The east side. Thank you. On the east side, the privacy screen of 1.5 meters. I think that's it. Oh, and permeable pavers in the front landscaped area.
Very good.
I think that the second floor terrace is actually on the west.
On the west, thank you.
Are you sure, Peter?
I'm pretty sure. You could wager. We can check in the minutes after.
I always lose these bets, so I will defer to your judgment. I was looking at the plans upside down.
Yeah. I'd second that, Chair.
It sounds like
And through the chair, is the
The west
motion
side.
for permeable pavers for the front walkway?
Yeah, I thought so.
Let's get the site plan up, please, if we can, and we can. I think it's the walkway to the walkout, isn't it? But let's just check. 01 in the front yard, please. There's the basement walkout coming up, and then there's a walkway across there. Can we zero in even more on the front? Very good. Okay, so the permeable pavers are, Mr. Byatt?
I'm just trying to see where it is. There's an existing walkway to be demolished, and presumably that's going to be replaced. And if so, that would be it.
And there's a walkway to the new basement walkout.
Perhaps we should just check with the agent to find out which areas he was referring to. It's the retaining wall, existing porch steps and handrail to be demolished.
Okay, let's go to the agent. Agent, you can rejoin us now, please.
Hi, tourist speaking. It's yet to be determined. I think it was the intent to potentially appease any concerns that it's slightly under permeable pavers, but I think the walkway between from the front porch to the basement walkout could be explored as permeable pavers.
Well, we're going to make it a condition that that's what we're discussing
Understood.
here.
Thanks.
Yeah. So
and just to also add that the second, I know there's back and forth. The second floor, it's the west side.
Second floor is west.
System. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, Larry. Okay, it's west privacy screening the second floor, and the walkway to the new basement walkout permeable. I think we have it now. All right. Is there a second for that motion? It is seconded, Mr. Reed. So it is moved and seconded to approve the application as amended. All those in favor, please show of hands. And that vote is unanimous. It carries the motion, and the application as amended is so approved. Thank you, panel. Number 11 is 51 Olive Avenue. Here we have the materials submitted. We have photographs of trees on the property. There's a tree protection plan. There are presentation materials from the agent May 24th. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry. We have correspondence, both supporting and opposing. In support from 768 Palmerston and from 53 Olive Avenue, which would appear to be next door. In opposition from 790 Palmerston, from 52 Olive, and from 41 Olive. So let's have the agent join us, please.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Stephen Lindy, architect and agent of the proposal.
Good afternoon, Stephen. Okay, panel members, would you like a presentation with respect to this application? Or are there any questions to put to Stephen, the architect? Well, Stephen, I have a question for you. You just heard our discussion with respect to the preceding application, and on your application, the concern is more about the front yard soft landscaping. You're only proposing 32% where 100 is required. Can you tell us what constraints you're facing there?
Yes, as we can see from the site plan and the survey, the front yard is very small. The front yard consists predominantly of the porch. The balance is a strip of soft landscaping and stairs and a 1 meter wide porous walkway to access the side and rear of the house. The 32% landscaping calculation includes soft and porous paver landscaping. The proposed porch is simply a replacement of the existing porch. The landscaping will absorb the rain adequately within the property. In addition, we are proposing extensive soft landscaping in the rear where possible, because there is a carport proposed. Everything else pretty much is soft landscaping.
Thanks for that. Thank you very much. Other questions, panel?
Chair, I could just jump in for a moment, please. Just following up on the last question, I understand it's a very tight front yard, but can you just confirm that the boulevard portion between your property and the actual roadway, that's greened, is that correct?
That is correct, except for the walkway.
Right, okay, thanks.
Mr. Byatt, yes, go ahead.
Just a quick one. Just going to ask about the materials below the carport. Hopefully those are permeable materials.
We have, I need to zoom in on that page. If we go to page 3 of our presentation, landscaping statistics, I don't recall if I put porous or whether it was concrete. It was page 3. Go up, please. Zoom in on that carport in the back. Yes, on the right. It says porous.
Wonderful. And just the other question is, in that same diagram, you've got all these little squares. I'm not quite sure what that indicates. Is that soft landscaping that you've got?
Yeah, that's a really poor choice of hatching pattern, but that is soft landscaping, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. All right. No further questions. Let's take this into committee. Moving to if anyone has a motion, they can carry forward with it. Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Sure, Chair, I'm happy to do this one. I think this is a very straightforward application. It's a relatively modest addition off to the rear. I think we've had a good discussion about the landscaping provisions of the application. They seem fine to me anyways. I do note that there's a balcony off the rear, but it's a Juliet, so it doesn't really need screening. I think this is a supportable application. I'm prepared to move approval, subject to forestry condition number 2.
Thank you very much. That is seconded, Mr. Byatt. It is moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please. Just a second, Mr. Byatt. Okay, there we are. Those in favor, please, show of hands. Very good. That motion is carried by a unanimous vote. The application is approved. Number 12 is 226 Christie Street. We have the materials submitted. Support correspondence from 42 Yarmouth, 42C Yarmouth, and 230 Christie. Correspondence opposing from 247 Christie. Let's have the agent join us, please, by stating your name.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Nelson Abreu. I am the owner of 3050 Imports. Our business has been located at 226 Christie Street since inception. We're going on 18 years of business. We are a sales organization. We import and distribute fine artisanal wines to the hospitality industry. We supply a lot of the local restaurants and hotels in the city, as
Nelson,
well as around the... Yes.
If I may just ask you to just hold for a moment, please, while I check with the moderator. Moderator, someone standing by?
Yes, we do have them standing by.
Very good. Nelson, go ahead with your presentation, please.
Thank you. Yeah, as we're saying, we supply the hospitality industry in the province, and we also distribute to private clients. My history with the property, 226 Christie Street, goes way back. My parents purchased this property in 1975, and I was raised on the second floor with the family. When I opened my business, I shared offices with my parents. It's been home of their refrigeration contracting business, a refrigeration limited, for over 40 years. As they have gone into retirement and my business has grown, we've taken over the space. We are basically looking for a variance to extend our business. We would like to open a retail location that would offer our community the opportunity to taste, experience products that we supply that are not available at LCBO stores, and to enjoy complimentary, simple, cold served snacks to go with their wines. We are looking at a 12-seat establishment. And, Christie Street is, unfortunately, has a disproportionate amount of retail frontage papered up. And we'd like to change that. We'd like to be part of the vitality of the neighborhood and the street. We're looking for a similar variance that have been granted to 146 Christie Street and 262 Christie Street. Operating hours are expected to be from 12 to 9 p.m. We're serving an upscale product that is for a mature audience, low amount of seating. We have parking in the rear of the property, and there's paid for parking on the opposite side of Christie Street, directly in front of us. There's also parking at the two supermarkets, one 2 blocks north of us, the Loblaws, and one half a block south of us, the Fiesta Farms. So we are not including any or asking for any exterior patio space. This is strictly an interior business, a seated business.
Thank you very much. Okay, panel members, question. Oh, no, panel, we do have one speaker standing by, so okay to hear that speaker, then we'll come back for questions. Moderator.
Hello.
Good day. State your name, please.
My legal name is Yu Wan. I'm the owner of 247 Christie Street, and I received the notice from the city in the early May. So just want to give my concern about the bar will be open across the street, and this is the resident area in the neighborhood, and we have a lot of retail in Broad Street and Dupont Street. And for many years, all the streets keep very quiet and friendly. So there's no more extra noisy come out from any neighborhood. And the biggest concern is when the retail be open and you don't know what kind of specific customer you will come. So you cannot manage those customers, their behavior. So eventually, whatever business goes good or goes bad, money talks. And I saw many retails in the residential area. They may play the loud music, and they may utilize to attract the visitors. So the lights cause the light pollution to those guys living in the area with the shift works. And although you can open till 9, but specifically, and you may change later on by 2 a.m., that it will be worse. So this is the main concern, because we already have a lot of retail in the Dupont and in the floor, which is not too far from here, and have a supermarket Fiesta right up corner. And you can see when the Fiesta get busy, they have to ask 2 or 3 guys come on the street to direct the traffic. And those are the concerns I have it. And that's why. And I just try to express my concern to the committee. So this is main concern for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions? Okay, we'll go back to the agent and give the agent a chance
Thank you
to...
very much. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Wang. I appreciate your comments and your concerns. We actually have a very good understanding of who our customer is. We've been in business for 18 years. We've been importing and distributing wines in the province. We are licensed to distribute in the province. We know our customers extremely well. They are mature adults. Our product does not appeal to young people. It is a product that is enjoyed with food. Quite simply, we are not a bar. We are not a pub. We are not a full-scale restaurant even. We are serving light snacks for people to come in and experience some wines that they cannot get in the general retail system. And our neighborhood is suffering, to be quite honest, from a retail landscape. It's 50% of the storefronts in our neighborhood are shut down. If they were all filled, it would be glorious. We would have a beautiful neighborhood, and I welcome that to happen. Our shop that is going to handle a couple of customers at a time, or a dozen an hour, I don't see it having an impact on any noise. We have no exterior operations. My mother lives on the 2nd floor still today. She's the owner of the building, and I don't plan on disturbing her one bit. That would defeat the entire purpose of starting this project. But I understand your comments, and I would love to meet you in person and chat further if you like.
Thank you very much. Panel members, questions for the agent? Not hearing any. Let's go then into committee, and we can move to a motion on this application. Anyone ready with a motion? Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Pardon me. Thank you, Chair. I think this is a very reasonable application. It's a very technical one in some senses. And I think the fact that it's on Christie, is a busy street and part of the neighborhood economic activity zone, I think the idea of somebody trying to revitalize a neighborhood through the efforts of expanding their business, I think is quite commendable. So I have no concerns about this particular application. I'd be happy to move a motion to approve, and there are no conditions attached.
Thank you. Is there a second? It is seconded, Mr. Reid. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please, show of hands. That vote is unanimous. To carry the motion, the application is approved. Thank you. Number 13 is 57 Aldergrove Avenue. On this application before us, we have simply the materials submitted at time of application and 4 photographs, trees on the property. Let's have the agent join us, please.
Hello, Bruno. You've been unmuted. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to attempt to reach him by phone.
Go ahead. We'll just stand by for a second and so we're just attempting here to reconnect or to connect with the agent. Hello, Bruno. Okay, I think we'll press on and come back. Moderator, if you could keep trying to get Bruno with us.
Bruno, I think you can speak now. Okay, it's saying they left the meeting, so I will try and reach him by phone.
Yeah, well, so we're going to put number 13 on hold as the moderator continues to attempt to connect with the agent. And we'll go on to number 14 for the time being. And then come back to 13. Number 14 is 46 Jeffrey Street. Committee has before it plans submitted at application, photographs of the subject property, presentation materials of the applicant, 19th of May. And there is correspondence in support from 44 Jeffrey and also from 48 Jeffrey. Let's have the agent on this application join us, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Newdorf. My address is 46 Jeffrey Street. Everyone can hear me okay?
We hear you clearly. Very good. Good afternoon
Lovely.
to you. Good afternoon to you. Okay. On this application, we don't have registered speakers in opposition. Panel members, would you like a presentation or do you have questions to put to the applicant? Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted, I wonder if the applicant can just speak to variances number 2 and 3. Soft landscaping variances.
Yes, absolutely. I realize they're deficient. Currently, much like a previous project that was reviewed here today, it's basically concrete pavers and not a lot of landscaping there at the moment. What's different maybe about our property, in one of the images I provided, maybe we can see it here in the second image that's highlighted in yellow. There's a front entry porch in that current location, and underneath that is basement space. Our intent is to remove that and have a front porch extend across the front, much like other houses in the neighborhood, on the street next door even. The current line of that is kind of dictated by that that basement space that's covered. So we are hoping not to have to infill that to put even push the front porch back. So that front porch line is kind of dictated by that and you can see there's not a lot of room to add anything else. We're doing as best we can with a very modest kind of walkway up to that front porch. So that's the condition that we're dealing with there, but the intent is obviously to improve it significantly, though still under the required percentage. For the rear, again, the additions that were kind of ad hoc put on the structure originally are being removed, but we're maintaining that back line. We're not wishing to extend any further into the backyard to max out that distance. And then with a very modest 7-foot deck coming off of that to get to the backyard, we're kind of left with this the space that's there. There's a garage that takes up quite a bit. So barring demolishing part of that or removing all of the deck, we thought we would improve that backyard condition as best we could, though realizing we still are a bit deficient, but our intent is certainly to make it better than it is currently.
Thank you.
Other questions, panel? No.
Sorry, Chair, if I may.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, I'm just looking at the site plan. And on the site plan, you've got an area identified as soft landscaping. And then just below that, you've got landscape pavers. Are those pavers existing pavers, or are those in proposed pavers?
Those would be proposed. Like currently right now, there's an image in the supporting document. It's basically all concrete pavers and then a wood deck on concrete pavers. But we're going to remove that condition. And so, but we need some kind of path, to get to the garage.
Would it be possible to use permeable pavers in that case?
Absolutely. Yeah, that would
be wonderful.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you kindly.
Of course. I think it's the next image if you scroll down a little bit. Yeah, that one that's not oriented correctly, but so you can see it's just the concrete pavers and then a deck on top of that right now. But we try to make, basically the same width of that path, just kind of to get to the garage and to the back alley.
Excellent. Thank you.
Of course.
Very good, then. Let's go into committee and we can move to a motion. Anyone ready with a motion? Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I thought this is a really good proposal. It's a fine design. It fits in well with the neighborhood and the streetscape. And I think commendably, the owner and applicant have done a really good job of improving on the existing condition on landscaping. So I think, and I thought the letter that the owner submitted was very helpful. So this is overall a really good proposal. I'd like to see more like this. The massing to the is mostly to the rear. The rear deck is already screened. So I think it's done a really good job of trying to do their best to bring this into compliance. So I think it's a supportable application. I'm happy to move approval. I don't, with the, I guess, condition, Zahir, you want to have permeable pavers where
in the rear
on the walkway. I do note that also it's a wooden deck, so the wooden deck will allow some water to make its way through as well. So
absolutely,
pretty good proposal.
Is there a second? It is seconded. Mr. Byatt. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please. Show of hands. That vote is unanimous. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Moderator, do we have the applicant for number 13 yet?
Yes, I think I was able to reach them.
We do. Okay, let's backtrack then to number 1357 Aldergrove. The agent is now with us.
Hi,
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Bruno Lopes from MSL Engineering, and I'm representing the owner. And apologies for this mishap, but I was attentively listening all morning, and for whatever reason, the system didn't want to cooperate.
Okay, we're glad to have you with us now. And to give your application consideration. Okay, so panel, we have Mr. Lopes here from 57 Aldergrove. Any questions for him? Basically, he's, I guess the plan here, Mr. Lopes, is to convert the garage to habitable space and then use the driveway for parking. Is that basically the essence?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chair. We actually filed our application. We actually got a zoning certificate, and when we went to building permits, we were flagged that the zoning reviewer missed one of these bylaws existing, that we cannot have this parking in the front. We have to have the garage, but of course, this parking exists since the house was built, and that's the existing condition. But that's absolutely it. We're just doing a little bit more of a use of the basement.
Very good. Okay. All right, panel. If there are any other questions, fine. Or someone ready with a motion, go ahead, Mr. Byatt.
Thank you, Chair. It makes eminent sense to utilize that integrated garage into habitable space, considering there's a pretty lengthy driveway, enough to accommodate 2 vehicles. I don't see any issue with this. I think we'll probably see a number of situations like this. I know that certainly in the North York area, there are a number of homes similar to this. So I suspect we'll see a lot more effective use of habitable space instead of habitation for vehicles. I certainly would move to approve and no conditions.
Thank you. That is seconded, Mr. Reid. Moved and seconded. Approval. Those in favor, please show hands. And that vote is unanimous. The motion's carried. The application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. We jump forward now to number 1597 Anderdale, and on this application there is a request to defer. Let's have the agent join us.
Hello, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Arash Bahamin at 19 Breda Court, Richmond Hill, representing the owner at 97 Anderdale Road.
Very good. Okay, you've indicated that you do wish to defer. Of course, that decision will be up to the panel, but tell us your rationale for wishing to defer.
Yeah, basically we have been working with the community planning on this proposal, which is for the proposed garden suites to be provided on the existing detached garage at this property. In the original proposal, we've been proposing to have this garden suite on top of this existing garage, along with an extension in the second floor. However, based on the limited separation to the main dwelling house and the height issues and angular plane, we are willing to work further with the planning staff to improve the proposal, and by providing the main floor's garden suite, the garage to be converted to the living space, as well as the second floor, maintaining the same footprint of the existing garage with no extension. And also the second floor's required 45 degrees angular plane to be complying with the bylaw. That's our intent, and we are willing to revise the drawings as per this new proposal.
Okay, sounds like a reasonable approach. And I assume you're aware that planning had actually issued a recommendation that, as it stands, the application should be refused.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay, panel members, there's the rationale for a request to defer. Anyone ready to make a motion on this? Mr. Byatt?
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a very good decision because planning, as you noted, did recommend refusal. And then there's nobody in opposition at this point so I think it's appropriate that the agent and architects go back to the drawing board, literally.
Very good.
I'd move to approve a deferral.
Very good. Is there a second to that motion? seconded by Mr. Reed. Moved and seconded to defer. Those in favor, please show hands. That vote is unanimous. Motion carries, and the application is thereby deferred. Number 16 is 75 McPherson. Here we have before us the material submitted at time of application. There are revised elevations, May 24th, 12 photographs of the property, agent correspondence, May 24th. There's a staff report from Urban Forestry. There is support correspondence from 79 McPherson and 3 form letters supporting 73 and 174 McPherson, also 184 McPherson. In opposition, there is correspondence from 79 McPherson. And in fact, that correspondence from 79 McPherson is accompanied by a note. So originally John McFarland of 79 McPherson had opposed, and then later wrote to say that he was now satisfied and retracted that opposition. Okay. So let's have the agent join us, please.
Hello, my name is Drew Mandel. I'm the architect and the agent for the owner.
Good day to you. Okay. Panel members, any questions here for the agent? I have one. Mr. Bott, Mr. Bott, you go first.
Just a quick one. Am I correct in reading the drawings that the balcony or the deck on the 3rd floor, I believe, is already screened, got a pretty high screening?
Correct. It has what we were calling in the office blinders on both sides.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
My question relates to the garage roof. And I wonder if you could explain what use, if any, is planned for the garage roof.
Yes, this was actually the source of a misunderstanding with one of the neighbors that we resolved to the neighbor's satisfaction. The only planned use for the garage roof is for potential green roof planting. There's no occupation or entertaining or storage of any materials on that roof, just a roof.
Thank you very much. Would there be would I access the garage roof by ladder or by staircase?
No. Oh, sorry, pardon me. There's no staircase provided. Access would only be for with a ladder for maintenance purposes.
Very good. Thank you. Very good. Let's go forward, panel. Take it into committee and move to a motion. Mr. Reed, please.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is a very reasonable and restrained application for a new build, especially. The variances are minor, and it's really not out of keeping at all with the existing built form in the area. So I'm happy to move approval subject to urban forestry condition 1 and 2.
Thank you. That is seconded by Mr. Byatt. Moved and seconded approval. Those in favor, please show hands. That motion is carried by a unanimous vote, and the application is approved. Number 17 is 103 Reignsford. We're looking at the submitted materials. There's a photograph of trees on the property. And we do have a staff report from Urban Forestry. Agent, please join us.
Yes, hello there. My name is Peter Kerfurst, and I am the agent for the property.
Hello, good afternoon. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Seems that what you want to do is pretty straightforward. Are there any questions, panel? If there are none, let's go with a motion. Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Sure, I'll take this one. As you mentioned, it's a very straightforward application. 2 variances, both of which are minor in nature. And I don't believe there are any, sorry, there is a forestry 2 condition. I think that's it. So I'd like to move approval with forestry condition number 2.
Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor, please show hands. Motion carried. And the application is approved, subject to forestry. Number 18 is 424 Clendenin Avenue. Here we have the materials submitted, application time. There's a pergola diagram from the applicant, photograph of trees on the property, several previous Committee of Adjustment decisions. There is a letter of clearance from the from Urban Forestry. There is a sun shadow study, and there is a staff report again from Urban Forestry. Let's have the agent join us, please. Just state your name.
Sorry, committee, can you hear me?
Clearly, yes.
Oh, sorry. Hello, so my name is Sam Pick and I am the homeowner.
Very good. You're the homeowner and acting as your own
Yes.
agent, correct? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Very good. Questions, panel?
Chair, I remember this application. Maybe it was a good discussion, as I recall. It was all about the height of the pergola. So is this application simply just making it a little bit bigger than what was previously approved?
Yes, if you bring up the supporting document, I believe it's just the last document that was submitted. It's just slightly wider due to the post location with the tree roots. And there is an electrical line supporting the rear shed underground, and we wanted to avoid that. So the proposal now, the height remains the same as per the decision before. The length remains the same, but the square footage is increasing from 10% to 11%, which is an extra 5 meters square, just because of where the posts were located. So as you can see in that diagram, the previous application is the grade shaded area, and then the posts close to the tree, they're not really symmetrical. And then you can see where I've marked the approximate location of electrical line underground that the post digging company wanted to avoid. So it just pushed the width by a few inches.
And no impact on the tree?
No impact on the tree, no.
Okay, great, thank you.
And Mr. Picken, tell me please, is the pergola already partially constructed or not constructed at all?
Actually, it's completely constructed.
It is existing.
Yeah,
So-
you can actually see it in the photo there.
Yeah, okay, so let's just check the purpose of the, we are in fact being asked to legalize. This was built without permit, correct?
No, it was constructed after the committee's original decision, which included the rear shed, and the rear shed was built off permit. So the original application was included the rear shed.
Through the chair, let me just double check if there's an OTC in the system. I don't think there is a violation in the system. So we, in that case, if that's the case, then we could just alter the purpose, amend the purpose to read, oh, it does say to permit. So to permit, it would be to permit the pergola. So I'll just.
So I.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, so I had a building permit, and then I'm going back to the committee of adjustments at the request of the permit officer. So it was due to get closed out, and then he said, "Oh, this is just a little too wide for what I can sign off on. Can you go back to committee?"
Now we get it. Okay.
Through the chair, that's correct. There is no violation issued in the system.
Thank you. Very good. Panel members, anyone ready with a motion? Mr. Clay?
Sure, Chair, thanks. Again, we had a fairly extensive discussion about this one last time. The applicant's explanation, frankly, seems quite reasonable to me, and it's only a very, very modest increase in the size. So I don't think there's an issue with respect to this one at all. And it sounds like they've protected the tree, although I would move a motion, but reestablish forestry condition number 2, just to make sure that that gets cleared.
Very good. Second to that, Mr. Reed seconds. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please show hands. And that vote carries the motion unanimously. The application is approved. Number 19 is 148 Gamble. Beyond the materials submitted at the time of application, we have a photograph of trees on the property, and there's a cover letter from the agent. There are staff reports from Urban Forestry and also from City Planning. Let's have the agent join us, please. State your name.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rocco Marsillo, last name Morsillo.
Good afternoon. Okay, panel questions. Not hearing any questions. And if there are none, we can go right ahead to taking the application into committee for a motion. Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is a good application, and I do think that the variances being requested are in line with the garden suite policies. I think that the 45-degree angular plane is acceptable in terms of its additional impacts, and I think this is supportable. So I'm happy to move approval subject to Urban Forestry Condition 2 and subject to the community planning report about being substantially in accordance with the elevations.
Very good. Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Clay. So moved and seconded to approve, subject to forestry and community planning. All in favor, please show your hands. Thank you. That vote's unanimous. Motion carries. The application is approved. Number 20 is 19 Bert Mount Ave. On this application, the only materials before the committee are those submitted at the time of application. Let's have the agent join us, please.
Andrew Trotter, I'm the agent for the owners.
Good afternoon. Okay, panel. We've got Mr. Trotter with us. Any questions here? Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Just a quick one, Chair. With regard to the balcony on the third floor, I don't see that it's at the height. I can't quite notice the height, but I'm going to ask if it's okay on the south and north sides of the balcony to add privacy screening up to 1.5 meters.
That's no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, then let's go to a motion. Mr. Byatt, carry on.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move a motion to approve. It's a very straightforward application, and the only condition I would add is the privacy screening on the third floor, balcony on the north and south sides.
Very good. That is seconded, Mr. Reed. It is therefore moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, show hands, please. Very good. That vote carries the motion. The application is approved. And number 21 is the last application on this segment of the agenda, 462 Kingston Road. We have before us material submitted, cover letter from the agent. There is correspondence from Transportation Engineering. There is support from 466 Kingston Road, and interest or concern expressed by 460 Kingston Road. So let's have the agent join the meeting, please.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Julia Curry, and I'm the agent for the owners of 462 Kingston Road.
Okay, very good. Good afternoon, Julia. Okay. Now, Julia, just for clarity here, your application basically is with respect to development that exists already. Is that correct?
Correct.
So it's basically an application requesting legalization of existing development.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, questions for? Hearing none, let's move to a motion, please. Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is a wholly appropriate use for this site, given the context and the surrounding properties. And I do note from the cover letter from Ms. Curry that this some of the works that were done by a previous owner. So it's not surprising, and it's actually good that they've come back in to seek permissions for an existing use. And again, I think there's no impact. I know the next door neighbor was concerned about future expansion, but I'm sure that that can be worked out as that process evolves. So I think this is a supportable application and appropriate use for this stretch of Kingston. So I'm happy to move approval, no conditions.
Thank you. Mr. Byatt seconds that motion. Therefore, it is moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please show hands. And that vote is unanimous. The motion is carried. The application is approved. And with that, we complete this section of our agenda. And I think we're now about 7 minutes past 1. I think we can probably begin the 2 o'clock session at 2 p.m. So we'll now go into recess until 2 p.m. Thank you very much.